Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thought. Now let's start the video. That seemed to put him off guard. Excuse me? Biting her lip, Dany took a few steps towards him. It's dreadfully cold out here. Wearing a dress of the same azure color as the one she had first worn outside Meereen, this one was long-sleeved and thicker. It fit her curves nicely while warm enough for the frightful chills of Blackwater Bay. And aren't you conscious about the scars? He finished for her. Nah, I want people to see them. You do? That contrasted with the more modest personality she had deduced before all of this. Why? A dark, dangerous glint formed in his gray eyes. One that perturbed Daenerys and aroused her. I died, and I fucking came back. He placed his sword on his shoulder. Everyone should know what happened so that they don't try and fuck with me like your sellsword friend, Jon growled, darkness tinging his voice. This was not the Jon she had remembered. Well, not completely. He had moments of danger that allured her, but this was more brazen, almost dragon-like. Daenerys both feared it and welcomed it at the same time. I see. She stood there, waiting for him to turn around. When he didn't, she continued, I'm glad to see you're feeling better. His response shook her. I feel not better. Back turned, Jon hung his head. Eyes tightly closed. Stronger, but no better. At that moment he turned. A dangerous look changed into something more mournful. I feel pain all the time. Some faint while other times it's excruciating to the point of collapse. Daenerys' heart broke for him. I'm sorry. I think part of it comes from trying to remember my life, my family. I try so hard, and all I get are fragments. The odd look came back, watching Daenerys like a wolf, wary to approach a sleeping Orioch for fear of being gored. Daenerys, why did we fight in a battle? We were enemies. Where? I don't consider you an enemy any longer, Dany said, a ghost of a smile on her face. He smiled back, but it fell. Listen, Samwell filled me in. At least what he knew. I know what happened. Dany lowered her eyes, then looked away. What had Jon been told? It wasn't outlandish for Samwell to have told Jon about all the discord between them. Immediately she worried he'd turn from her completely. What did he tell you? Everything he knew, as I said. Her heart sunk deep. So, what do you know? I know we fought. I know you used your dragon to annihilate my army. While only fragments of the battle remain in my mind. I do remember seeing the massive beast, vividly. He shuddered, feeling the low aches grow to a steady throbbing. Even death didn't take that sight from me. I know instead of burning me like the black fish, you took me captive. That's true. I showed you mercy. I suppose you did. But coming here cost me my life. Perhaps you should have burned me right then and there, Jon said, half meaning it and half testing her. He watched her face darken. Then he smirked and chuckled. A mere jest. I told you, being here is far better than where I was. She huffed, hoping he didn't catch how what he said made her feel like she was the one being stabbed. I'd hope so. Daenerys collected herself. I put Daenerys to a trial yesterday. Or attempted to, anyway. He demanded a trial by combat for your murder. He doesn't know you're dead. Ah, the sellsword trial by combat. I know it. He fights your champion. If he wins, he goes free. Correct. Well, Jon shrugged. I'll be fighting him then. Her jaw dropped, skin prickling in fright. What? Jon? You can't. Why not? You've just come back some 2 weeks ago. You can't fight him. Daxley's voice was almost frantic, and he noticed. You aren't back to full strength. Daenerys, I have to. He can be no one else's. It surely can. I have many able bodies to fight for me. Perhaps, but Daario didn't kill them. Daario killed me. Now, it's my turn. I deserve vengeance and I will have it. You will not stop me, Jon told her plainly. Even if you won't allow me to fight him as your champion. He won't leave the island alive. I'll kill him regardless. I told him so. Can't go back on my word, can I? Are you sure? Jon stepped back from her and flipped the training sword in his hands before hacking through the air. He pressed forward to the training dummy, lacerating it with blows over and over again with such intensity the dull blade snapped in half. Jon tossed the hilt aside and turned back to Dante. His loose hair laid over his face. He pushed it back with one of his hands. "I'm sure," he told her. "What happens if you can't beat him? I can't just stop the duel." "You won't have to. I'll kill him." His confidence pleased her, glad he had something to fight and strive for. She pointed at him, smirking. "Do you intend on fighting him shirtless as well?" "No, I suppose not. I can't make it that easy on the sellsword, though I suspect you might enjoy that." She gasped. "What?" "I saw you staring at me, Daenerys. I'm no dullard. I may have died, but I have sense." Gainty reddened in spite of herself. "I don't know what you're talking about." "It's fine. I understand," Jon said, shrugging. He turned his back to her. She scoffed, following after him. "What are you doing?" When she got close, he snapped back around and grabbed her. He didn't hurt her, but his hands gripped around her wrists. Her breath caught still her throat. "What are you doing?" she repeated herself, but her voice lower. She didn't wrestle against him because he was calm. His eyes weren't full of fury, instead warmly regarding her. He let go of one of her wrists, yet held on to the other, saying nothing. He moved her hand to hover over his chest. Slowly, he brought her palm to press against his flesh, right over his heart. Time slowed to a crawl. The beat of his heart was evident. Her own picked up its pace, while his stayed even keel. Her fingers brushed over the place where the blade stabbed him, a half-moon crescent shape, bulging out from the skin, red and a bit swollen. But she wasn't repulsed. How his body even functioned now, she didn't know. She didn't know what to say or think. Jon sensed her disarray. "It's all right. I just wanted you to see. I know what you did for me. I know what you did against me. But all that matters now is the present." "My heart beats, but it shouldn't." He watched her tremble slightly. From emotions he faintly recognized. "I died, but I've returned. I don't know how or why. Only that you willed it. Or it wouldn't have happened. I need to know, why did you bring me back?" "I brought you back because it was my fault that you died, and I felt guilty," Dany replied. "Your fault? The sellsword might have done it in your honor, but the act had nothing to do with you, much as Samwell seems to blame you." While he understood why his friend felt that way, Jon didn't join him. "The details are fuzzy to me, but you weren't there. You could have let me sleep, but you didn't." "Why?" She blinked, remembering Davos's words. "I brought you back, because you deserve to live." I deserve to live? The older man had told him that in his visit. Jon had liked him instinctively. Davos Seaworth was one of a rare good, honorable men who would rarely lie. But on this contention, he was skeptical. "I've killed hundreds of people, old men. I remember murdering 2 old men. I don't even know why. I was your enemy. We fought each other. I fought for Stannis. How did you think I deserve to live?" "Because you're a good man." "I just told you I'm a murderer. I need answers." "Why did you bring me back, Daenerys?" "Because I care for you. I didn't want you dead." Her voice shook, dropped to a low whisper. Staring into the gray eyes she thought she'd never see again. "It hurt me that you weren't alive. With me." Jon released her, but she didn't step away. "Even if I had been your enemy?" She did not hesitate. "Yes. Despite everything, he was the only one who ever treated her on equal terms. Never dominating, never fawning." A moment's silence passed before he sighed, smiling. The pain for once actually gone, if only temporary. "I just wanted to hear you say it." "You suspected something?" "Of course I did. Once I found out how I got here, it confused me how you'd bring me back. The decision didn't make any sense, given who I was. But now I know why." Dany had no response. She walked past him to the dummy he'd beaten several moments ago. Her mind wandered back to the imminent duel. "You don't have to fight him." "I'm no coward. I have to." "What if you lose?" she said, turning back to him. "I won't be beaten again, not as long as I have something to fight for, a sword in my hand," Jon told her. "I have to do this." Dany sighed, keeping her eyes on him. "He didn't move an inch." "I'll allow it," she finally said. "I appreciate it, Daenerys," Jon replied with a small smile. "It can only be me. Should I fall again, then I truly do deserve to die. I'd much rather see you win, as opposed to having to further endure Dakario. I just hope all of your skills have returned. Thank you for your concern. But I'll be fine. My fight skills feel sharp. It's instinctual and innate. While my mind is twisted up, it can't affect the duel. Fighting is all about reacting and acting accordingly. You certainly know how to do that. Of all her enemies, his skill had come the closest to defeating her without simple luck or betrayal. But don't lose. He raised an eyebrow. Is that a command, Your Grace? She raised one herself. It is, if that's what it takes. They stood quietly before she added, It's also a plea. Don't lose. I don't intend to. There was another pause. But suddenly they were in each other's arms. Neither knew who moved first, whether Daneshare walked to him or Jon opened his arms, but he undeniably held her tightly while she allowed him. The air pressed against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, a sound she would love to hear for the rest of her life. Soothing, calming, pushing all of her worries and fears away. I gave you a choice. Jon, you... Dany could feel his eyes on her. Before this, I gave you the choice to leave for the north for your home. But then I made it for you. What do you mean? Essentially, I ordered you to go. It was all that you demanded for moons. Daddy trailed off. But I can give you the choice now, to go home or to stay. He watched her intently, gazing for any tell of her emotions. What do you want, Daenerys? Now was her chance to rectify all that was unsaid. I want you to stay. Daenerys made herself look up to him. Please stay with me. The look in his eyes was intense, powerful gray eyes dark as they regarded her. He leaned down, as if to kiss her, but stilled, foreheads merely touching. In truth, just this moment made her feel more complete than with either of her past lovers. Before he could answer, she gently pulled away, for once truly looking like the young girl she in fact was. You need not decide. I shouldn't have asked, not while you're still finding yourself. He had to be the one to make the choice. I'll send for Samwell. Turning to leave, Dainty heard him call back to her, You shouldn't be sorry. She looked back, finding him simply staring at her. I'm glad you told me. Glad to know whatever these feelings are. They're real. He offered the slightest of smiles. I have very little left of myself that is real, so I choose to cling to what is. Daenerys smiled back. The choice? It's always yours, Jon. Please tell me when you make it. He nodded, watching as she left him alone. Always when it's darkest for him, unfortunately. When he has no one to shine a light on the things that cloud his mind. Daenerys was the best at that. Daenerys Targaryen stepped through the doors to the great hall with her hands clasped over the bright white dress, sheathed by an open gray cloak about her shoulders. His colors, though combined with the three-headed dragon clasp chain of her battle dress, regal and composed as a warrior queen, with elaborate braids. Daenerys looked as if she would be claiming the Iron Throne that day, not striding an empty great hall to preside over a trial. Barristan and her blood riders were gathered around the dragonglass throne, Missandei in front of it, but at the base of the dais. Varys, Tyrion, and Grey Worm stood to the side. The latter the furthest away. In his hands was the sheathed Valyrian steel blade, Longclaw, pommel as gleaming white as her dress, auspicious. In the center of the hall stood Daario Naharis. At seeing her, he smiled even in spite of his still scabbed-over cheek. Almost affectionately, as if they were locked in a passionate embrace, following a night of coupling. Darius refused to let his gaze falter her. Violet eyes meeting his with an expressionless steel. Had she always been blind? No, I knew what he was the moment he brought the heads of his captains to me. She quietly ascended the steps, recalling all she had endured and witnessed. A ruler cutthroat and inflexible would find themselves bereft of allies, and yet Daario had never given up on the ruthless Dragon Queen. She was tired of death, of war. She had changed, matured, grown as a ruler. This filled her resolve as she took her seat upon the throne of Aegon the Conqueror. I hereby call this trial to order. Among the columns were the various captains and lieutenants of the Second Sons. Good, they would learn a valuable lesson today. Sears Barristan, you may begin. Ahead of her, the chains clinked as Daario crossed his arms, watching her with boredom. Sir Barristan cleared his throat. By the authority of her grace, Daenerys of House Targaryen, first of her name, this trial shall determine the guilt of Grand Captain Daario Naharis for the crimes of murder, attempted murder, and high treason. His voice was filled with contempt. I have been informed that the accused wishes to make a request of the court. There was a pause. Oh, Tierney remarked. Now may I speak? He asked, tone mocking the proceedings. Apparently there's this process of this shit country where an accused can seek combat to be one's trial. No, Barristan gritted his teeth. If you request a trial by combat, you bind yourself to the determination of the gods. Daario waved him off. Yeah. Dispense with the horse shit, old man. His eyes fell again on Dany. The gods'll show. I'm superior to any of these mummer warriors. He licked his lips. Plus, you know what they say is good after a fight? Whistling. Daenerys narrowed her eyes. I regret not having fed you to my dragons when you held a knife to Missandei's throat. But it doesn't matter, you'll be dead either way. It had the desired effect, Daenerys' grin fading, replaced by a scowl. Weeks, my queen. Weeks, and this is only the second time I have seen you. And you resort to having me kill someone to survive an execution. What is this injustice? Would you rather me have you released with a trail of flowers leading to my bed? Now that you mention it. The Daenerys started laughing in spite of herself. Oh, Daenerys. You think you have some right to me, but you don't. A dragon, seen either as a slave to tame or a slave master to appease for personal gain. Only Jon ever saw me as a person. Ironically, his enmity was the only genuine form of equality she had ever witnessed in her life. I felt nothing when I dismissed you from my bed because you are nothing to me. That is a lie. No, it is the truth. Gods, he was giving her such a headache. Believe someone when they show you who you really are. You did when the heads of your captains fell to my floor. He scowled, pulling at his chains. I did that for you. Everything that I've done has been for you. She shook her head. You did it for yourself. You felt that a female Maegor the Cruel would dazzle your cock the most. A sigh. A lordship and keep awaited you at the end of this campaign had you followed my orders, but you didn't. And here we are. Your Grace, just get on with it, Missandei hissed, sick of looking at him. Daario scoffed. I shan't have some pleasure slave judge me. No one was more affronted by the insult to his lover than Grey Worm. I kill you now. She has not named you champion, Grey Worm. Barristan barked, the young Unsullied glowering as he stepped back. You don't judge me, old man. I judge you. I judge all of you. Had she followed her instincts, she'd be in the Red Keep by now. I was the only one who realized this. He grinned at Dany. Send your worst, lover. I promise for your sake, I won't have my face or my cock damaged. All right, Daario. Kono, give him your blade. The Dothraki snorted, but complied. Watching the Iraq brought to him, made of the finest Meereen steel, he rolled his eyes, rubbing his wrists as the chains fell to his feet. I want that. Daario pointed at Longclaw in Grey Worm's hands. A warrior may choose his blade, if the sovereign allows it. I don't. I am going to enjoy this. Normally, House Targaryen's champion is fire, but I made a promise to someone. Dany leaned back with a ghost of a smirk. Let's see if you believe in ghosts. The champion for the crown is Jon Stark, Lord of Winterfell. There was silence in the hall apart from the scuffle of boots upon the stone floors. There, in his black and gray leather quaz steel gorget, emblazoned with 2 snarling direwolves and a bun holding back his raven hair, was Jon Stark. Silent as he found Daario, taking Longclaw from Grey Worm, eyes never leaving his prey. Besides how handsome and powerful Jon looked in his battle gear, Daenerys would always remember the look of slack-jawed shock on Daario's face. In front, she saw Missandei cast a smirk behind her shoulder. Daenerys smirked as well, leaning forward. Surprised, Daario. His mouth flopped open like a fish. He finally choked out. I fucking killed you. Seems you didn't, Naharis, chuckled Tyrion. If you are that bad with where to stick a blade, I worry for your lovers. You shouldn't be alive, Daario said, scowling harshly. I stabbed you in the fucking heart. Jon swirled his blade, remembering its balance. It felt good to hold the Valyrian steel in his hands again. Gray eyes settled on Daario, gaze sharp and weathered with an almost haunting expression. Like the ice demons he had previously shouted about. Aye, you did. How the fuck are you here? I'm not sure, Jon replied, stretching the creaks in his joints nonchalantly. But I am here for you. The reality dawned that he was actually going to face Jon Stark. A slow grin formed on Daario's face, slashing at the air with his arca. On second thought, I don't give a shit. Seems I'll get to kill you twice. He glanced at Daenerys. Perhaps this time the Queen will get the message. Jon's eyes narrowed. There was much that was still a void to him, but with this man he was focused, determined. Clear. Do you remember what I told you? Daario rolled his shoulders. Do you remember what I told you I'd do with your sword? I'ma fuck your little cunt sister with it, bastard. Dario's eyes widened. Even she hadn't expected him to be that cruel. I should have burned him. Blue eyes and red hair gleaming as a girl hugged him filled his mind. He didn't know her name, but he did remember her face. A sudden rage filled his void. Seems to me you belong in the darkness. I saved a spot for you while I was there. Nah, Dario said, flaring his nostrils. I'll let you have it. He got into his own fighting stance. My place is in the queen's bed. While Daenerys' anger rose, Jon merely gripped Longclaw with 2 hands, readying himself. You aren't leaving this room alive, Daenerys. I'll enjoy ripping your heart out. You may try. The two of them stared each other down for a split second further before they charged. Dario spilled first blood when his Auric delivered a shallow slice on Jon's shoulder. He grimaced but reared back, stance firm as he matched the powerful attacks blow for blow. Each swing was with full force, but a miscalculation found Dario slashing over Jon's head, giving the Northerner the opening to slash for himself. Falling back on an instinct learned long ago, drilled into him by persons unknown. Such was enough to keep him alive, for now, steel flashing as it caught each blow, blades ringing as if a beautiful yet deadly orchestra, eyes narrowing. Jon stabbed at Dario's shoulder, using the force of the party to spin Longclaw into position for a 2-handed downward hack, only for Dario to bash him in the head with the hilt of his Auric. Jon pitched back, stumbling a few steps before righting himself. Battle paused as he felt his forehead, fingertips trailing blood. Lucky blow. A sneer appeared on Dario's face. Sneers spread on Dario's lips. You're slow, bastard. Don't make this too easy for me. Don't worry, I won't. Dame Stains as Dario attacked, swiping and slashing in a flurry of attacks that sent Jon off balance. Longclaw only just saving her love from a quick decapitation. He's more skilled, even in the state he was in. Jon's greater skill showed, but he was stiff. Not the savage she witnessed at Duskendale, cutting through Dothraki and Unsullied alike. He's tiring, Barristan noted to her side. We should have delayed, Gainshire murmured, watching as Dario made up for the skill deficit in his usual style. Dirty and frenzied, putting all of himself into the attack no matter how wild or underhanded. A street brawler against a castle knight. Each parry became harder and harder, each breath taking more effort. His head felt light, pounding against his skull. Dario's battle cries rang in his ears as if far away. But still Jon fought. Words flashed through Jon's mind, unbidden. You learn to fight in a castle. He quickly raised his blade, parrying a downward slash before Dario's shoulder crashed into his side. Her axe twirling in his wrist to slice at his side. Some old man teach you how to stand, how to parry. Every joint felt like sand was scraping through them, aching as he leaped back, stance rooting in the ground to meet Dario head-on. How to fight with honor. The sellsword charged, grunting, war cries as he put his entire strength into his 2-handed assaults. The clash of steel on steel ringing through the great hall. Jon's hiss of pain as the blade nicked his chest belied who had the upper hand. Daenerys almost cried out at seeing the flash of red, more of Jon's blood spilling to the floor, and her again powerless to stop it. A second death, a second urge to Melisandre would only destroy the man she loved even more than he was now. Then he bit her lip, praying for the first time in years for the worst to not pass. The Auric was made for slashing, to slice soft flesh rather than hack through thick meat and bone. Dario wielded it with the fury of a great sword in his assault, sweat shooting off of him like a rainstorm as he snarled his attacks. Pushing Jon almost to the dais itself, beating a left slice with Longclaw, Jon noticed a kick coming and instead charged, forcing Dario to give ground and bring up his Auric defensively. Their blades met, arms straining as they stood face to face. Give up, bastard. Dario grunted through the strain. Jon refused to give in, lungs burning, joints buckling. Even as he pushed, the strength slowly ebbed from him. Unable to break the stalemate, you know what's wrong with honor. As if on instinct, Jon spat into Dario's face. With a cry of irritation, Dario stumbled, allowing for the sudden punch to the chest to send him actually scrambling. Losing even his nimble footing as the glint of Valyrian steel entered his vision. No cries of battle or anger left Jon's lips, just a murderous rage as silent as the dire wolf he so aptly named. hacking away one-handed at the off-balanced Dario. Wrist dexterous as he spun around, attacks and parries matching Dario's frantic attempts. Thrusting forth, Jon anticipated Dario's sidestep and spun on his leg the other way. Longclaw tasting the flesh of Dario's chest, ears wobbling with his cry of pain. "Look, your grace." Eyes opening after being shut for so long, Dany almost gasped as it was now Dario wounded. Jon's face hardened, and almost fire burning in his eyes. Patting his wound, Dario snarled, "You're gonna pay for that, bastard." "I told you I would kill you," Jon said. "Don't delay the inevitable." Dario beat on his bleeding chest, blood smearing onto his gloves. "It was me that killed you. It was wrong of you to murder me." More flashes hit his mind of battles large and small, mere snippets of a past filled with life and struggle. It fueled his fire. "Now you will understand what you took from me." Jon slowly swung Longclaw around, wrist stilling and hand gripping the hilt tightly. Another charge, only for Jon to sidestep him, countering all attacks but otherwise almost dancing around Daxio, letting his furious charges peter out to nothing. It infuriated the sellsword. "Fucking fight me." Another snarl as Jon did it to him again, sweat soaking his clothes. Jon cocked his head to the side. "Dario Naharis, where do you come from, anyway?" "My name has meaning. My name is an honor. You're the one who's worth nothing." He suddenly shook his head, not caring anymore, not caring to do anything but kill this cunt in front of him. "Let's get this over with." "Hey, let's." They moved in a deadly dance, bodies soaked with sweat, but Jon's sudden inferno pushing aside his pain. He furiously went at Dario with two hands clasped to Longclaw, ending a potential counter-strike by kicking Dario in the ribs. Followed by a punch, instincts beaten out by a different instinct. One more savage, desperate, the instinct of someone that had something to fight for. Jon twirled the blade, one-handed, a right hook narrowly missing Dario, but forcing his retreat. Whirling Valyrian steel, meeting the arak, right hand tightening back on Longclaw to thrust and slash. Batting aside a powerful lunge that nonetheless nicked his cheek, Jon slashed Longclaw left, then right as he spun around, each swing of his blade growing closer and closer, parries weakening, fire overpowering the exhaustion of his foe. A counterattack was beaten back with ease. Jon not even breaking a sweat at this point. "Fuck you," Dario screamed, punching wildly, kicking at Jon's groin. The latter missed bit the former hit Jon's jaw, spilling a bit of blood. "You will die." Arcing his blade high in the air, he was about to slash down right at the join of the neck and shoulder, when a flash of sunlight reflected on Valyrian steel as it thrust forward through his exposed stomach, left open to the darkened stark by his anger and dramatic flourishes. He suddenly felt a punch to the gut, the sheer force of Longclaw staggering him. There was no pain. Not yet, at least. He did it. Dany knew enough about fighting to detect a mortal wound. The vice on her heart evaporated. All was right again. "I told you I would kill you," Jon whispered, pulling Dario close. "I'll make sure no one remembers your name." "Go," he coughed, blood frothing around his lips. Ahead. "I was born, nothing, and I will end that way. But you'll always be, even through the pulsing pain, through the agonizing wheezes, a bastard playing a part." Wordlessly, Jon drew Longclaw out, pulled the sellsword up by the hair, and watched as the Valyrian steel blade slit open his throat from ear to ear. Eyes hard as Dario Naharis gasped for one final breath, blood soaking his entire upper body before the eyes blew. Life leaving him with a wheeze of air. Letting go of the hair, the body dropped to the floor. It was also anticlimactic. Let the record state that by his defeat and death at the hands of Jon Stark, championed to her grace the Queen Daenerys Targaryen, Barristan began, "The gods so judged Dario Naharis to be guilty of the offenses charged." Sighing in relief, Daenerys stood, eager to put this mess behind them, concerned over Jon's injuries, wishing for him to be cleaned and dressed. But Jon shared none of the relief of his erstwhile love. Standing there, he stared at the body, fire unsated, the returning darkness in his soul roiling him, consuming him. He barely registered what he was doing, but suddenly he was upon the corpse, fists clashing against flesh, until there was only bone. Though Dario had clearly passed, Jon continued to beat his lifeless body, uncaring, It seemed as if he hadn't even noticed. He wanted blood. So that's what he took. All his anger and frustration flooded out through his fists. It didn't even provide him relief, so he just kept going. What is he doing? Tyrion frowned, nearly turning away. The man is dead. You don't know fury like that, Lannister, Barristan told him. Sometimes that's all there is. When that happens, it's best to let it happen, lest you feel the wrath as well. So much pain, I can't imagine it, Miss Andy gasped, covering her mouth. Eventually, she had to turn away. Jon lifted Dario's battered body only to cast it back down against the stone, breathing hard in and out. Wet crimson dripped off his hair and clothing. The knot he'd used to keep his hair back had been lost long ago. The loose locks hung over his face. The room was still, just watching him. Daenerys was unable to look away. She didn't know if she needed to speak, perhaps stop him, but Barristan's words stuck in her mind. At that moment, she wasn't sure if Jon would turn to her with the same fury or not. Then, in a swift motion, Jon brought his leg up high, above what remained of Dario's head, only to bring his boot down hard. His foot essentially caved in the skull. He did this 3 more times before backing off. Jon fell to his knees, then to his back, laid flat out, covered in blood. He looked dead himself. The sight made Daenerys shoot to her feet, immediately going over to him. But Barristan blocked her path. Your Grace, he's in bloodlust. I don't care. He's dangerous. So am I. Your Grace, please. Step aside, Ser Barristan. Reluctantly, the older knight did as he was told. As Daenerys neared Jon, she did notice his chest rising and falling, which brought her a matter of relief, at least. Jon certainly looked worse for wear. What remained of Daenerys had made a right mess of her throne room. The image of the body disgusted Daenerys, yet also a tinge of satisfaction. Sitting up, Jon sensed her presence. His expression was worn from the fight, but the anger seemed to have dissipated. I got him, he said, awash with calm. Yes, Dainty replied. You certainly did. Jon examined his palms, which twitched at the movement. I might have broken one of my hands. His relaxed tone almost made her laugh. Why did you beat him? Dany asked, eyeing his hard face, littered with new scars from the fight. One against his forehead, a tiny one that nicked his cheek. She wanted to kiss both of them. You'd already won. I suppose I wanted to. I thought he deserved it. I don't know any man that deserved what this one got, said Barristan, kicking Dario's boot lightly. You gave him no honor in defeat.
There is no honor in defeat.
Daario Naharis was nothing, he said, then looked at Dany. Regardless, his life was mine to take. I took it. It doesn't matter how I did it. Nodding, Dane's face morphed to concern. Are you hurt? She reached forward and took his knuckles in her hands. Her thumb rubbed over his busted open fist. Her touch was instantly soothing. No, I'm fine, he gestured to his bloody tunic. This is mostly his. He inched ever closer to Dany, but Barristan put his hand on his sword. Jon's eyes shot to him. Sorry, Barristan. I suggest you don't do that. Barristan made to retort, but Daenerys locked eyes with him. It's fine. Step aside. Again, the knight obeyed, but watched Jon closely. Missy, please have a hot bath prepared for my champion. The translator bowed and compiled. Her champion. Jon found he rather liked that term, a sense of recognition he instinctively recognized as rare to him, and yet she looked hesitant. Daenerys, are you afraid of me? Even though she was touching his hands, there was still tension in her, though after watching him beat a man to death, many women would have cowered long before then. Not much room for hesitation. No, I'm not. There are much scarier things than you. Gently, she blotted a small amount of blood from his face. Oh? Like what? Losing you, the words fluttered from her lips before she could stop herself. A part of her wished he had missed it. Jon blinked, baffled, then he regained his composure. There were many things that were lost to him since returning to life, but Daenerys was not one of them. She was vivid to him when everything else seemed foggy. They'd gone to a cave for some reason. He didn't remember why, but he hadn't forgotten their connection in that cave. Despite their surroundings, he smiled. I'm not sure who I was before. I don't remember everything, but there's something about you. When we're together, everything makes sense. Daenerys almost swooned at that. I'm glad to hear it, she eventually said after a long pause, composed with a slight hitch. You've been a cloud of confusion for so long. But yes, now you seem clear to me as well. Well, that's very good to hear, I suppose, Jon said. There is something about you, but I can't quite gather what it is yet. She wanted to sigh. That will do, for now, I suppose. Wordlessly, Dainty reached up, wiping away the drying blood from his head wound, cringing at his wince, but it was momentary. His face was bruised a bit, but otherwise looked fine. More than fine. One day at a time, Jon Stark. If you look back, you are lost. Feeling her cup his cheek, Jon felt the tension leave him. I very much like looking forward. With her, the void in front of him didn't seem so terrifying. Life had been interesting for Sir Davos Seaworth. Boring yet no less interesting, given what had happened in the last several weeks. Working at the laces of his leather vest over the homespun tunic, nothing but simplicity for the crabber's son, no matter how far he had advanced in the world. He checked out the trimmed visage in the looking-glass. It was often said that one couldn't make a second first impression. Whoever said that hadn't met a red priestess. Locked under confinement in a guest suite for over a week, only when, to the satisfaction of Ser Barristan Selmy and Lord Varys that he wasn't here to assassinate the Queen, was Davos allowed to leave. Inundated in talks and negotiations between himself and Daenerys, formal, all coached in diplomatic doublespeak and innuendo. Davos had been in enough negotiations to know when all but the continued protection of Jon Stark and commitment not to attack the North or Riverlands houses that had been on the field of Duskendale was still left unresolved. Wish I had time to negotiate directly with the Dragon Queen, he muttered, but some things couldn't be helped. A knock on the door found him greeted by the frizzy hair and composed yet a kind expression of the Lady Missandei. Sir Davos, are you ready? He nodded. As I'll ever be. The Queen had finally granted him leave to visit with Jon, and apparently she sent her translator to escort him. Two burly Dothraki behind them, they began to head across the keep towards the royal suites. My lady, Davos began. Wasn't able to say this to you directly, but apologies for scaring ya down in the dungeons. The translator laughed cheerily. Water under the bridge, as you say here, Sir Davos. Truly, Missandei had put all enmity against the hand of Daenerys' enemy when he helped bring Lord Stark back. Never in her many years of service had she seen Daenerys so happy. I do not look forward to facing you as an adversary once more. Me neither, and only half because of the dragons. Often he had watched the beasts fly close to the keep. It both amazed and terrified him. You have made a good impression on her grace, Sir Davos. Miss Emo felt she had a good grasp of the Westerosi title customs, though Grey Worm still struggled much to her amusement. I share her contention that it is a shame your paths didn't cross sooner, so as to be sworn to House Targaryen. Loyal but not dehumanizing, Davos didn't feel the need to purge his conscience of kindness to a rival. Perhaps in another life, it would be the dragon I serve, he smiled. Fate brought me where I am, and I accept it, but can't help but think of something better. She nodded, looking ahead as they passed through a large hallway. I used to think of a life where I wasn't in bondage, but such a life would not have brought me here to serve Queen Daenerys. Thinking of the moment Daenerys burned the masters in Astapor, discarding the whip and earning the loyalty of the Unsullied, it was then Missandei realized she was adjacent to greatness. Never will I make light of the horrors of bondage, but I am grateful to the fates for putting me on a path to lead to her. Good way of thinking about it, I suppose. For the life of him, Davos couldn't imagine someone actually being thankful for bondage, rape, or other horrible acts. He figured it was the same with his mutilated fingers. Are you sure that I won't be attacked as I leave? Missandei met his eyes once more. You will carry a letter of marque containing the Queen's personal orders that you are to be harmed by a vessel sailing under her banner on your journey back to Storm's End. After that, she trailed off. Need not say more. Davos didn't need to hear more. Fair enough, he stroked his beard. Any chance the Queen would entertain a peace negotiation with Stannis? His Grace is willing to cede Dragonstone to her and recognize her conquests in the Bay of Dragons as a Targaryen sphere of influence. I like you, Sir Davos, Missandei interrupted. You are an honorable and smart man, so I believe you can answer your own question. She smiled sympathetically but knowingly. Couldn't hurt to ask one more time, he chuckled back. Christian's eye tensed a bit, though. Said to Davos, might I be direct? If you must. We wonder what you might say. When you return to your king. The truth, Davos replied plainly. His Grace deserves to know, and I keep no secrets from him. The full truth. You cannot expect me to lie, Davos frowned. Missandei stopped then. He did as well. Her face stayed even as she spoke. Next, I had suspected you might feel that way. Raising his eyebrows, Davos replied. Shall you be taking me to meet the dragons then? No, as I said, I suspected as much already. I'm sorry, I don't understand, Davos said, shaking his head. Is there a problem? Missandei smiled and passed by him. Not entirely. Davos was still confused, but followed after her. She continued, You see, Sir Davos, we believe the truth should have its day. Yet word of Jon Stark's death isn't something we want all of Westeros knowing. He's back now, and no one needs to know he was gone. I can understand you don't want the people to know an important Lord died under your roof, Davos relented. Still, I cannot lie to my king. Yes, I know, but do you think it likely that Stannis would want anyone else to know that his lord died? Or if he did, that he returned to life with the help of the Targaryen queen? Davos frowned hard. No, perhaps not. We agree, so tell your king if you must. Eventually, they reached Jon's door. At least what he assumed was Jon's. Lord Stark, called out Missandei, slowly entering, hoping that she didn't find him bare-chested again, or completely bare as happened one time. She didn't complain, though. The queen has good taste. Luckily for her, his dressing down included a loose tunic, slick with sweat from the strenuous push-ups he was performing on the floor. Hard grunts echoing through the chambers. Lord Stark. Finally realizing someone was there, Jon looked up. Hair matted to his forehead as he leaped up, strength and agility coming back to him. Missandei? He didn't remember her, but Jon had come reacquainted with her more than anyone but Dany and Sam. The exercise pushes down the pain. I'm glad Dany would not be happy hearing he was still in pain. Someone's here to speak with you. At his nod, she left Davos a kind glance and stepped out of the roar. There was a moment's silence, both just staring at each other. Do you remember me? The older man asked, breaking the silence. I'm Sir Davos Seaworth. Seems everyone is asking me that, Jon said, a bit annoyed. Truth is, I don't remember anyone. Not fully. I have glimpses. I have flashes of things I've seen and experienced. It's muddled up as if my head is stuck in a thick fog. Well then, Davos cleared his throat. I hope it clears up. I do as well, Jon managed to smile. Is there something we did together that I might remember? Oh yes, Davos laughed. A great many things. We fought alongside one another. Well, I watched you fight and I tried not to get hit. I am Stannis' hand, so I was there with you along the way until you landed here. I see. Were you there when I was captured? No, my place was with Stannis. Why aren't you with him now? Davos sighed. Even with his mind broken, Jon Stark still had his wits sharp and questions biting. I was sent to Baratheon to hire the Golden Company. Also, Stannis requested I attempt to get you out of this place. Dragonstone, he wished for your return, Davos told him. I don't recall what sort of man Stannis was. Not fully. Yet, he was the one to legitimize me. I was there. Saw it with me own eyes. I did, Davos smirked, rocking back and forth on his feet. Stannis saw an opportunity in you. You were smart to join him. The two of you did a great many things together. When Jon seemed unaware of what he spoke of, Davos continued, You two fought those evils beyond the wall. Stannis helped you retake your home from the Boltons, as well as enabling you to avenge your brother at the Twins. Stannis trusted you completely. You were rather valuable to him. That's why he wants you back. Jon looked up at him, shrugging skeptically. How can you be so sure? Apparently, I lost. Davos shook his head. So has he. Quite badly, I might add. From smuggling onions into Storm's End to a large chunk of the Baratheon fleet, and 3 of his sons, at the mouth of the Blackwater, came to mind. He fought to forget his losses. He needed to move forward. I know he won't blame you, for you did as honorably and as skilled as you could have. I can barely remember, so I'll take your word for it. It's been said that most people would be better served if they did. Davos chuckled at his own jape, making Jon smirk as well. As I mentioned, he wants you back. Why? You're very valuable to him. I understand that, yet I don't know why, Jon said, frowning. He sent you for me. Why? Because I add value for him. Davos shrugged. Why don't you ask him yourself? What do you mean? Come with me, it's been a long time since I returned to Stannis. My place is by his side. Davos said, I guess he's making preparations for the assault on King's Landing. I need to be there. You should be too. It'd be fitting for you to be with him when he takes the throne. An end to a long journey, Jon said, that I played a part of. Yet, I don't recall my involvement. He gripped his head with his left hand, skull beginning to pound. I know it would mean a lot to Stannis, Davos told him. Why should I care what he wants? Jon snapped. He sure left me on this island. A prisoner. I don't even have any idea how long I've been here. His voice wandered off. Davos watched the man he'd come to know and respect melt before his eyes. He sighed hard. Then he sat next to Jon on the bed, wrapping an arm around the boy, an almost fatherly gesture. For Jon, his instinct told him that it wasn't something that bothered him before. I'm not pressuring you, Jon. Seven above knows that your mind is a jumble as it is. Then what are you telling me, Davos? Jon looked over at him, eyes hollow and filled with inner torment. The only person I can seem to remember is Daenerys. I don't know what would become of me when I'm removed from that familiarity. I ain't asking you to do that, but you will never truly come back to yourself unless you take chances. It has to be your choice, though. Duty doesn't matter if you don't remember taking the oaths. Patting Jon on the back, he stood. Good luck, Jon Stark. I wish you all the blessings in the wars to come. Just hope it'll be peacetime when we see each other again. With one last smile and a tap on the shoulder, Davos headed for the door. Davos, Jon called out, stilling him. Before you go, you mentioned some evils beyond the wall. He looked back at Jon, eyes wary. I did. Did they have blue eyes? Aye, was his only response. He and Jon stared for the longest time before the Stark nodded, wariness taking him over as well. Davos sighed and made his exit, leaving Jon sitting on the bed with his head in his hands. In another part of the keep, hours later, Daenerys watched from the balcony as the sloop set off from its anchorage. Sails billowing, making course for Shipbreaker Bay. It carried Sir Davos Seaworth, her enemy yet also one of those responsible for saving her love. Regardless of how battered and lost he was, her Jon was nevertheless alive and Dottie owed Davos his freedom for it. She recognized the footsteps behind her. Yuya, Daria, Silvok, Tomelne. One of her unsullied spoke. Looking back, Dainsier, Skardos numaz mazir kiatsla. Ziri sital na yat mazigon na yat si idar. Sighing, Dani followed her guard out of her chambers. Dainsi followed her Dothraki as they led her through her castle, until they reached the open air and the downward winding stone stairs. Even from a distance, she saw Melisandre waiting on the beach. The Red Woman stood out amongst the sand and waves. Why Melisandre had to speak with Dainsi, she didn't know. Most likely some parting words she'd have to ponder on for the preceding days. Once Daenerys neared, she noticed a somewhat blank expression on Melisandre's face, as per usual, yet her eyes narrowed at Dainty like never before. The blaring gaze nearly sent Dainty backward. Melisandre nodded her head. Your Grace, I'm glad you decided to see me. I grant people what they desire, if it is reasonable and within my power, Dany replied simply. It shocks me that you did not go with your Lord Hand. The Red Woman didn't begrudge her for lack of amity. He does not command me. His king does, for Stannis is your king as well. I follow the Lord of Light and his promised prince. Melisandre stood beside Daenerys, hands resting on the railing. Stannis is not that anymore. Wasn't in the first place. I was wrong. There was a terse silence. But alas, the Lord's will seeks my absence. Where will you go? Volantis. This did surprise Dainty, though she merely raised an eyebrow. Why? He does not always inform me of his will. Melisandre was nothing but cryptic, but Daenerys didn't wish to delve deep in it. You've certainly earned your freedom. She smiled softly. Returning him to the mortal realm was my honor. I just have one question, Dainty bit her lip. You brought him back. Do you know what happens to him now? You want to know if his memory will return, Melisandre replied, nodding. In truth, I don't know. To my limited knowledge of resurrection, yes. The person I knew of that came back 7 times, his memories returned. Yet, also, he had said he left pieces of himself behind when he returns from the dead. So we can't know for sure. You'll see, Dany huffed, looking away from her. He's even more confusing now than he was before he came back. Before, he was easy to read. I knew what he wanted, and what he thought, because he wore it on his face or just told me over and over again. Melisandre replied calmly, "There is something about Jon Stark. I saw it when he was simply Jon Snow, a common bastard and ranger at the Wall." Her gaze was pointed to the sea, but she spoke without falter. "He is destined to be the prince that was promised, or at least part of that destiny." Her eyes swiveled back to Daenerys. "As do you." Dany blinked. "Me?" A nod from the Red Woman. "You," Melisandre chuckled softly. Oddly, the original High Valyrian of the prophecy contains a word that doesn't specify the sex or the number. Prince or princess or princess or princesses. All could be true at once, she sighed. The Lord sends me premonitions, snapshots of what he wishes me to discover. I must piece them together, and yet often the visions are vague. "You thought Stannis was the prince that was promised," Daenerys frowned. Of this piece of information, Varys never wavered. "Why should I believe you now?" The gaze of the woman did not falter. "I saw a figure in the flames, no face initially, just a form holding a flaming sword in the snow. Stannis, I deduced it was him due to the strength of his blood, but it was Jon's face in the flames." She paused, looking deep into Daenerys' eyes. "His is a great destiny, intertwined with yours, and you have chosen that fate by accepting him as your man." "My man?" While that sounded like a dream for Daenerys, they were nowhere close to that. "You've grown close with him. Perhaps, more that, I've grown used to him." A ghost of a smile teased on Dany's lips. Melisandre nodded. "Interesting. You don't know how he feels." "No, not completely. With his injuries, perhaps she'd never know." "His mind is broken," the Red Witch replied, a tinge of sympathy in her voice. "There are things he doesn't remember, some things that will never return to him. However, there's one thing, or shall I say, a person that never left him, and never will, so important to him that they were the lone thing on his brain before it all caved in." Dany trembled a bit, pondering her words. "How could you know that?" "You'd be surprised what I know," Melisandre smiled. "My lord gives me all the knowledge he desires." She stepped a mite closer. "I know your feelings as well, Daenerys. You wonder if your own desires are reciprocated." "Are they?" Dany asked, a bit breathless. Then chiding herself for being so childish. Jon Stark's grip on her felt invisible most days. Nonetheless, it permeated her every step. Melisandre backed up, then until the waves brushed against her robe as they washed in. Her only reply before stepping into the skiff, "Ask him." Pulling back from peeking around the corner of the weathered stone wall, Jaime trotted back towards the Lannister van, 20 meters away. Sure enough, Cersei was disembarking the ornate wheelhouse that only she would travel in. "Is he there?" Jaime helped her down with his good hand, kissing her cheek. There was no propriety needed anymore. Within their ranks, no one could overpower them. At least not with the Mountain standing right behind Cersei, his massive bulk ready to crush all that spoke ill. He arranged the dais and everything. Casting her brother a wry grin, Cersei's eyes twinkled with sarcastic mirth. "I honestly never expected for him to show. Perhaps sending that onion fellow, always following him around." "Lord Davos Seaworth is absent, your grace," Theodred corrected. "One of the few afforded the privilege. Lord Stannis will be his own chief counsel." Her smile grew even wider. "All the better. Let us treat with my good brother." Alongside her brother and surrounded by the finest of her Queen's Guard and Household Guard, Cersei began her arrival. The small keep was put to the torch years ago during Robert's Rebellion, one of the many stubborn Targaryen loyalists willing to die rather than go to the Wall. Tywin's men had obliged all of them, but while most ended up being granted to Baratheon and Lannister loyalists, this one was left to ruin. Sitting just off the final part of the King's Road, 30 miles south of King's Landing, it was the perfect place to hold a parley. Given Cersei's lack of punctuality, both accidental and intentional reasons possible, it was the Baratheons that arrived first and set up the raised wooden dais for the two parties to meet. Stannis and his advisors sat, waiting. He watched with narrow eyes as he spotted Cersei, the gold and gilt of House Lannister disgusting him, only broken by the all-black Queen's Guard. "Even now, she has horrible taste." Sotsley muttered beside him. "Your Grace, it was Edric Storm, Robert's bastard, and Stannis' new Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. He bore his father's brashness and zeal for a good fight, but had inherited a shrewdness from the Florent side. He was Sosely's nephew by her sister, Robert's mistress. It made him a good sword to have by one's side. I say we kill them now, end the war here. Shireen heard that from her perch behind her father and mother. No, they are being given guest rights. Sure enough, a Baratheon guardsman was offering Janebad bread and salt to give to his sister. As a compromise, while only mere miles from King's Landing, the keep was officially in the Storm Kingdom. To do so would be an affront to the gods. Quiet, Stannis hissed. Do you want all of Lannisport to hear you? Usually never raising his voice at her, Shireen stopped talking, quieting down. No. We will proceed with Baelish's parley, even if it is a farce. With guest right given, the Lannisters made their way to the prepared seating. Cersei sat first, her retinue after her, and guards placed right behind. Perhaps she'll show me a weakness. Well, Cersei began, a tiny smile on her face that looked more like a grimace, and her hands folded in her lap. Atop her head was a gleaming crown of gold, one as gaudy in its lion decoration as Aegon IV's had been in the Targaryen style. I honestly figured that Dragonwhore would come seeking terms first. Dragons aside, staying behind to free smelly Giscari slaves implies weakness. Her green eyes twinkled at Stannis. Forgive me, but I always knew you cared less about such compassion. And I do mean that as a compliment. His scowl hardened. Why is it that you make even the kindest words come out as bile? Smile sickly sweet, Cersei chuckled. 16 years as your brother's wife. I can't say the same for you. Her grin never changed. Your wife is too much of a shrew to influence you at all. Viserys didn't enjoy all the eyes on her. She knew it wasn't her place to speak up. Not at length, at least. I am but a humble servant, serving my purpose. Have you served your purpose? Cersei asked. Her eyes flitted to Shireen. I don't see a proper heir here. You've given your husband no heir. Frowning, Cersei's grip on her daughter's shoulders tightened, feeling threatened. Seems times have changed. You're a queen, right? Cersei might have remarked something else, but Stannis spoke up. We are not here to speak of my family, Lannister. Placing her arms atop her lap, the Queen of Westeros, at this point, more accurately the Queen of King's Landing, smirked. Perhaps not, for it is to speak of how putrid your house is. She rather enjoyed her former good brother's attempts to hide his ire. Beside her, Cackenroos. Lord Stannis, he said in a hoarse voice, you said in your letters by way of Lord Backlish that you wished to discuss terms of an alliance. Aye, Stannis repeated, ignoring the slight. There's a greater foe out there, and she has 3 fire-breathing dragons. Shame that it wasn't the Dragon Queen that came here. The voice in question belonged to Euron Greyjoy. No one could doubt it was Crow's Eye, his stringy black hair and eye patch matching the gold and black doublet he wore. Not only was she far prettier than any of you lot, but I would also have seen my dear nephew again, finished what the Boltons started. He grinned, Stannis Baratheon in the flesh. Euron eyed him down as a shark would its prey. You're skinnier than I expected, and I expected something of a Sorithos ape when I heard of you. Perhaps I wasn't far off. The Crow's Eye made to erupt from his chair, only for Cersei to still him. Shut it, Lord Greyjoy. There will be none of that. A smile, we are civilized here, ignoring the scoff from Randyll Tarley and some of the more pious Valemon and Reachmen. Jaime didn't seem to hear his sister. This meeting is a waste of time. They've nothing to offer us. You'd be wise to listen to what we have to say, Stannis told him. For what? We can defend ourselves from you. We have the capital, not you. You are nothing, Lannister, Randyll growled. You can defend no one with one hand. You'd be surprised what I can do with one hand, Jaime scoffed. Well, you did a poor job at defending my brother with 2 hands, Stannis added. I'd hate to see you with one in combat. Zake huffed, putting his good hand on his sword. I'll show you. It'd be over quick, child. As much as I enjoy the bickering, I'd rather spend the minimum amount of time here as possible, Cersei said, crossing her arms. Do you have something to offer? At that moment, Lord Daenerys stood, brushing wrinkles out of his doublet as he walked to the middle of the dais. My friends, lords and ladies, now is not the time for the petty squabbles that so divide us. Get to the point, Baelish, Randyll Turley barked. The man's unctuous pleasantries may have charmed the skirts of many young maidens that went into his brothels and never left, but he wasn't about to fall for it. The fact Randyll had used the same arguments as to not falling for his eldest son's attempts to plead as a son loving his father not to be sent to the wall was lost on him. Littlefinger rolled his eyes, but sped up. Given the threat that Daenerys Targaryen's dragons bear to the realm of gods and men they owe no allegiance to, it would be in the interests of the realm and the people to reach a just alliance and conclusion in our hostilities. He spoke well. He spoke passionately. His words seemed to take hold in some of the lesser lordlings and inexperienced heirs that had taken over from their deceased fathers and mothers. And yet, are you japing us, Littlefinger? Jaime rolled his eyes. The day you care about the people is the day I fall into the deepest of all the hells. You're already halfway there, Kingslayer. Randyll wasn't shocked that Cersei was surrounded by reprobates as the false maester, Gregor Clegane, or whatever the fuck he was now, and the Greyjoy brute, but Jaime Lannister always stood out as the original drop of poison in the wretched rule of House Lannister. Or should I say sister fucker? Jaime's eyes developed a sunken look as Cersei's narrowed behind. The lords of the Westerlands chafed in their seats. You are out of line, Lord Tapley. No, Cersei. Eyes flickered to Stannis, finally speaking. It is you who are out of line. Looking at Littlefinger, a flick of his wrist motioned for the lord to sit down, not noticing the ever-so-subtle twinkle in Cersei's eyes telling him the same. Lord Baelish is right. We must put aside our differences to face both the Dragon Queen and the greater enemy. Cersei snorted. I always figured it was Prissy Rensley who'd be seduced by zealotry, as this had the red priest they sent have a long cock rather than a sweet cunt. Perhaps it would have been holding equal disdain for the usurper Rensley had become. Stannis ignored that comment. Much of him wished Melisandre was here, but he was equally focused. He was the king. He was the promised prince. Not the Red Witch. Here are my terms, good sister. You bend the knee to me and get Casterly Rock. You pay me 1,000,000 gold dragons. Your armies fight for me against Daenerys Targaryen, and when I claim her dragons as my own, I will not burn you alive. There was a silence before Cersei laughed. Not a chuckle of amusement, nor a sarcastic laugh one would use to mock, but a guffaw that almost would send one falling off of their seat. Oh, gods, you're such an idiot, Cersei choked out, trying desperately to calm herself. You honestly suspect that you would be able to tame those dragons. You're more deluded than I thought. He is the prince that was promised, Saudios hissed, coming in to support her husband and king. Born among salt and smoke, destined to wield the flaming sword Lightbringer. Flaming sword? Jaime interrupted. Like Thoros of Myr. At least he was drunk enough to carry those damn things around. Shut it, Kingslayer, Randyll barked. State your terms and be done with it, my lady. Cersei smirked. I was going to ask 1,000,000 gold dragons from you. Indemnities essentially dispensed with, she continued to the meat of her request. You want Storm's End? Keep it. Randyll Tarly wants the Reach. I hated the Tarlas anyway. I shan't punish the Vale for their efforts, since they never fought directly against me. It would be easy to swing the man-child to her side. You bend the knee to me, and I won't destroy your entire army as I did at Blackwater Bay. Like you did? Stannis raised an eyebrow. I remember it was the dwarf that did that. He saw Cersei flush red in anger at her brother's name, while Jaime looked sad. I expect you to surrender, Lannister, Stannis grimaced. I don't much care about what you expect. I don't care about anything regarding you, Cersei shot back. You can plead all you want. I'll never bow before your feet. You're just as weak as your fat brother. It'd be a shame for me to dirty my dress in your name. Stannis' hands gripped tighter on the arms of the chair. You dumb bitch! Cersei's Queensguard in their atrocious black armor leaned forward, hands on their swords. The Stang's men did the same. You think you can defeat me? Have you seen the numbers at my back? I don't need to tell you how many because you know. He spread out his arms. You have less than half that I do, but bones below my feet. I offer you a chance at survival and yet you turn it down. Cersei scoffed. Of course I do. She regarded her former good brother as a lion would a grasshopper. Beyond bothering with. I only accepted the parley to tell you this. Rant and scream all you want. A Baratheon will never wear the crown again. Your disgusting excuse for a house will never sit on the Iron Throne again. Come to my gates and see what happens, Cersei said, feeling more relief as the words left her mouth. You are crazier than I thought, Stannis said, chuckling a bit. Madder than the Mad King, yet as stupid as my brother. He smirked at how Cersei flared. The comparison to Robert rankling her. You actually think you have a chance. I will smite you from this earth. I'll make sure the Lannister name is long forgotten. Dead as your 3 bastard children, dead as your father, dead as the rest who rose up against me. Cersei half laughed. Try as you might with one leg, you're weaker than Robert was before he got run through by a boar. Eyes widening, Stannis growled, when you go back to your keep, savor it. Cherish your time there, then cut your throat or toss yourself from the highest tower. If you don't, when I take the castle, I'll make sure you and yours leave this world in the most painful way possible. That dumb bastard in your belly will never see the light of day. Cersei scowled, her eyes shot to Qyburn, wondering how Stannis might have learned about her babe. Stannis wasn't sure, but her reaction confirmed it. That's right, I know your secrets as well. Your incest spawned another bastard like Joffrey. Luckily, I'll make sure it never has to endure you, or the shit world you've tried to create for it. It's no life for a child, and that abomination has no place in this world. I'll end it before it begins. And I swear this, Cersei began, when my army outlasts yours, I will serve you with no mercy. I'll see to it your family is ripped limb from limb. Your mutant daughter's skull will be dashed against stone until there's nothing left. Sir Gregor will beat your wife to death before your own eyes. I'll make you watch it all. The bodies will be left in your cell. As they rot, so will you. Stannis rose, hearing enough. Thousands need to die because you can't do what needs to be done. Fine. So be it. Thousands will die regardless. Jaime spoke up. I don't see you for the prisoner-taking sort of man. You compare me to the Dragon Queen? Stannis scoffed. You did burn Olenna Tyrell at the stake, Cersei replied. Seems you both have a proclivity for burning people. Stannis smirked, pointing a finger at her. You'll meet the same fate. Sit upon my throne all you want. I'll rip you down from it. I'll enjoy watching the skin wash off your face as the flames cleanse you of your iniquity. Cersei shook her head, anger bubbling to the surface. And I'll enjoy watching your face as your family is torn apart before your own eyes. Stannis scowled, sensing this meeting was drawing to a close. He turned to his queen, Sixleys, take Shireen, and go back to camp. But the inquisitive princess had other ideas. No, she whispered. Being involved for the purposes of learning to rule. But now her father was sending her away like a small child. For someone with the innate Baratheon temper, if usually buried under her sweet nature, father, you need to try and negotiate. Trying desperately not to let his ire at Shireen's disobedience get to him, Stannis doubled down. Wife, get her back to camp. We need peace, father. Shireen tried to reason further with him. So much death, chaos. No one noticed the princess catching glimpses of every battle she was close to, every execution she was refused to officially attend. But it weighed on her, shaped her in a direction opposed to her father. Don't let more innocents suffer. Come on, Shireen, Cyaxares murmured, pulling her daughter away, growing angry at the humor the Lannisters were undoubtedly having at the scene. Yes, so be it. Send the prissy ladies away. They have no place here. That worthless wife has no place anywhere. Cersei spouted on. Cersei stopped dead in her tracks. Shireen in front of her. You had a number of stillborns, didn't you? Seems, in order to me, for such a weak woman, she waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry, it won't matter in time. Perhaps I'll take your daughter under my wing. I'll teach her how to be a real lady. Cecily turned and walked past Stannis' chair. No one was in place to stop her. You dumb bitch, she yelled. The Lord of Light will show you who the real king is. My husband Stannis. Her feet carried her out into the open, still moving directly for Cersei. You are the weak woman for challenging my Stannis. Rosielis, come back, Stannis ordered. But she wasn't listening. The Stagkie queen kept on. She had a murderous gaze about her countenance. Cersei was a bit startled, pulling a face, though she was unafraid. In a swift motion, her hand gestured toward Cielis. Before anyone else could speak, a large black form moved in front of his queen. Cersei Gregor Clegane needed little harassment to take a life. Seeing him, Cielis realized her mistake. Unfortunately for her, it was far too late. In a quick motion, Gregor took her by the head with one hand. Lifting her into the air, one thumb pierced deep into her eye. Her screams warbled out in high-pitched, blood-curdling cries. It cut off quickly, all too abruptly, able to rend well-muscled warriors in their prime. Gregor didn't flinch as he squeezed the thin stick of a woman until her head imploded in his fist. The whole act began, and then ended before most were able to react. Blood and brain matter splattered in all directions onto the mountain's armor and on the doublets and tunics of those in the vicinity. With a wordless gesture, he heaved Saxley's body into the air, landing right in front of Stannis. Her skull emptied its contents before Stannis' feet. The blood pooled, rolling under his boots. Silence fell. Both those on the side of the stag and the side of the lion, either shocked still or gaping in stunned silence. Captured in sheer disbelief of what they saw, Randyll Tarly covered his mouth with his palm to ward off nausea. Cammy Lannister stared with wide, frightened eyes, and even Littlefinger seemed to tremble slightly. Cersei, on the other hand, smiled brightly and rolled her eyes. Stupid cunt. I enjoyed that more than I thought I would. Mother, Shireen wailed, walking closer until she fell to her knees. A Baratheon guardsman had the sense to make sure she didn't make the same mistake as Ceres, pulling her back from the corpse as she simply broke down before the entire parley. Taking it upon himself to remove his princess out of there, Stannis was unmoving, complete blindsiding, turning quickly to a raging inferno so great that his legs ceased to ache. His eyes lingered on what remained of his queen. Then he looked up to see Cersei's sly grin. "I'll tear that babe from your belly, then watch you burn," was his only response. A Lannister guardsman reacted involuntarily. So used to killing defenseless small folk for their insults on the queen, he moved forward out of habit, hand on the hilt of his sword. This drew the notice of a Baratheon bannerman, already on edge, as it was from the death of his queen, leveled his spear and hurled it at the oncoming foe, skewering him through the heart in a perfect throw, the dead man falling with a grunt. For the second time, a silence fell over the now ruined parley. Only instead of the shocked stillness of before, now the tension was so thick that one could cut it with a spoon. Yami slowly stood, good hand wrapping around the grip of Widow's Wail as he slowly approached Cersei. Around him, the queen's guards drew their blades, surrounding their monarch. "Stay behind me, your grace," remarked Ser Edric, standing in front of Stannis. "We will protect you." Slowly, the Lannister guardsmen marched forward, Jaime pushing Cersei back. "Kill her, nephew," Stannis hissed. "I want her dead." His blue eyes met Cersei's greens, both dark with hate. Edric would carry out his uncle and king's orders. For the king. Greatsword held in two hands, he charged at the head of the Baratheon guards. Cersei's men were barely able to tense up in formation as the two lines crashed together in a chaotic melee. Both had expected such treachery, and thus were heavy in guards, while light on actual dignitaries. The natural conclusion erupted here as the lighter Baratheons assaulted the heavily armored Lannister Landsknecht, slamming into their shields and hacking with axes and swords while trying not to get skewered or bowled over. The Kingsguard of the stag armor and tunics of vibrant yellow and black of the House of the Durrandon Kings, with a flaming stag emblazoned in the front, aimed straight for Cersei, and by proxy Ser Gregor. Parman Crane charged directly at him, only for the immense broadsword of the mountain that rode to literally cleave through his shield, and then his helm, blood gushing from the stump of his neck. Entering the fray behind, both Edric and Ser Hyle Hunter abandoned their shields and engaged the monster sword to sword. "Protect the queen," bellowed Jaime, more concentrated in pulling Cersei out with his good arm around her waist, while the queen's guard surrounded her, swords out and blocking all attacks. "I can walk myself," Cersei hissed. Jaime ignored her. His anger grew and grew as the Lannister forces began to retreat to their wagons, putting up a fighting withdrawal against the more numerous Stormlands and Reach guards of the Stag King. "You had to kill Lady Silis," he whispered harshly in her ear. Once two layers of troops blocked their enemies. "She attacked me! She was harmless." Gods. Was there anyone his sister wouldn't kill? Me? The fact it was a question to him said wonders. His eyes lingered on her as they moved away. What was she truly capable of? "Do not stop," Stannis bellowed at his men, watching his king's guards beating even Ser Gregor back, seeing the Lannisters retreat against the attacking Baratheons. Spear meeting axe, long sword meeting greatsword. "Bring me her head." "Your grace, you need to fall back," begged Randyll Tarly. "You too," Stannis ordered two remaining guards. "Get my wife's body off the ground and back to the mounts." He'd be damned if the true queen was left out on the ground. Ransel was unmoved, worried the king's leg would give out at any moment. "It's too dangerous for you." He turned to him with blazing eyes. "Lead the men. Your king commands it." Rhaendiel grimaced but complied, leaving Stannis unprotected as the Lannisters laid an ambush. Two of the Westerman guards, feigning death, suddenly scrambled to their feet. The line having moved many yards back, they had open ground between them and the Stag King. Swords high, they charged with snarling battle cries. Warrior instincts kicking in, Stannis drew his own blade, heart pounding as he parried the wild attacks. His nimble body danced in a sudden gasp of power from the proud fighter he had once been, knocking one blade back, attacking the other in the fury of his house. Stannis lashed out with a punch before twirling on his good leg to slash at the first guardsman, slashing through his throat, bloodlust up. The crazed swing of the remaining Lannister was dodged, Stannis running through his chainmail shirt with his sword. Just as his leg gave out, fuck, gritting his teeth in the most unbelievable pain, he fell upon the corpse of his attacker, rolling off, trying to get up, but finding only agony at even the slightest pressure on the wounded limb. He felt arms grab at him. Get off me! Back to the fight. They ignored him, pulling him towards their own camp. Pressing forward, the hue came to the Baratheon men-at-arms. The king retires. Fall back. Blood up, the herald deflated their anger. In blocks, the groups of stags broke off the attack, falling to the rear after their king, still screaming through his pain that the attack be pressed. Behind, the lions refused to follow, over a dozen corpses left in their wake. Watching this, Cersei chuckled. They couldn't even beat me here. They will be back, Yaemeh murmured. And Stannis will have to crawl over the corpses of every man, woman, and babe in King's Landing if he wants to take what is mine. At this point, Jaina didn't even hear the difference between her and Daenerys. Hunger. She'd managed to make the last rabbit last quite a while, but now she just wanted to devour anything she could get her hands on. Berries and crusty bread weren't cutting it. Catching a live game just wasn't easy. Only able to do it a few times. She needed a bow, but no idea how to make one. Attempts were made, but she had nothing to use as a drawstring. Once she saw a fisherman use a sharp stick to stab a fish in a river. Tried that too, yet the fish were too fast. After getting her boots waterlogged, a number of times she gave up, though the water soothed her feet after all the walking, which she was doing a hell of a lot more of after selling her horse to buy food. It rankled her, but starvation ranked higher on the list to avoid. The man at the tavern close to Raventry Hall offered her 3 fresh rabbits. She thought that was a terrible deal, so he threw it a few loaves of bread. She couldn't turn it down. That food lasted her a long time once she figured out how to properly ration it. Yet somewhere along the way in the Riverlands, she took her last bite of the rabbits. A while after that, her body needed more sustenance. She fought it off as long as she could. That only got her so far. All she knew was to walk south along the King's Road. Once hunger struck her again, she decided to wander off to the right, hoping to stumble across something edible. The road behind her became distant. More and more trees appeared, looming over her, shading her from the sun. The 2 saddlebags slung over her shoulders never felt heavier. That's when she set her eyes on a squirrel, a big black one, scampering up a tree trunk. Her mind flashed back to hot squirrel stew in the Great Hall at Winterfell. For the first time in a while, she wanted to be back there. A small, innocent child with not a care in the world. She froze as she stared at the small rodent, wanting nothing more than to catch it and kill it. Unfortunately, she had no way of doing that with it in the tree. Her initial instinct was to lob her walking stick at it. She knew immediately that wouldn't work, though. Her mind raced with options, none seeming correct. Even before she moved next, the squirrel raced down the tree, back onto the grassy ground. Its tiny eyes beamed all around before taking off out into an open pasture nearby. Slowly as she could, she followed it out of the brush. The squirrel sat before her, very close. Gently, she laid her saddlebags down for easier mobility. She drew her blade gradually, approaching with ease. Just when she drew near, right before she struck it dead, a stray arrow flew out of the bushes nearby and killed the squirrel dead, right in front of her. She stomped her foot and screamed, 7 hells. Moments later, a shriveled-up boy came out the trees next to her with a bow in his hands. He wore a leather cap over his head and a woolen cloak over his shoulders. "Oh, didn't see you's here. You dullard. I wanted that squirrel. How could have you not seen me getting ready to kill it?" "I'm sorry, miss, Just be silent," the girl said, holding up her hand. "Listen, I'm taking that squirrel. I don't care if you killed it first." It was me that killed it, the boy said, coming closer to her. It's mine. Her expression darkened significantly, hand tightening around needle. Come try and take it then. The boy noticed her aggression and wisely held his hands up. You can have it if you want. Good, she smirked, and picked it up. She tore the arrow out and tossed it before the boy's feet. You can have that back at least. Her feet carried it back over to Bags, stuffing the poor squirrel in one of them. Bags slung over her shoulders, she prepared to leave, but the boy still lingered near. His words stopped her. But how's about I show you something before you go? What do you mean? She asked him. He walked away from her, meaning for her to follow. For some reason, she did. They didn't walk far. Emerging out of the woods, the young hunter gestured to something that caused her eyebrows to quirk up. Here's my home, a collection of unfinished houses. Some mere frames of wood, while others only waited for the thatch roofs to complete them. The half-constructed spire of a septa, the largest building here, but nowhere near the great sept of Baelor in King's Landing or the houses of worship in Braavos, rested in the middle. Someone there, ringing a bell. That's the call to lunch. You're welcome to join us. She shook her head. That's all right. I better be on my way. Some might take it as modesty, but truth be told, she simply didn't want to deal with anyone. It was best that she stay alone, but the lad was insistent. Brother Maribald would admit the stones if I let a young lady go without feeding her. Come on. She rolled her eyes, stomach growling. One meal, and then I'm out. The people of the settlement were typical small folk, rough and dirty, but all had smiles on their faces and cheers in their hearts as Arya walked among them. Carefree and innocent, even in the land most ravaged by the wars. She didn't understand it. Those in Winterfell had never known war for generations, and yet a few years under the Ironborn and the Boltons had rendered them almost as hardened as her. It truly baffled her. In any case, her guide reached someone giving directions for meal lines, clearly a man of authority. Brother Maribald, I found me a newcomer. Oh, asked the man, suddenly interested. The more the merrier, I say. Now where is he? He is a Shije. Getting closer, Yakreya studied the man. He had a slight pot-belly, curly hair, and beard thick. There was a look of a warrior in him, but one that had softened with age and peace. He reminded Arya of her father in a way, both a good and a bad thing. And she is me, a pair of warm blue eyes regarded her. Such a lovely young lady you brought for us, Dunk. I'm Brother Maribald, and welcome to our home. He motioned for Arya to follow him. What's your name? She hesitated to answer, but decided it couldn't hurt. Erosia. Good to see you, Arya, Maribald laughed. Looking for a new place to settle down? Arya shook her head. No, just passing through. The fewer people knew, the better. Maribald nodded. Wary traveler, then. The Seven's blessings to us are yours to enjoy as well. Countless atrocities had taught her to be wary of such munificence, and yet those same experiences taught Arya to read people. He seemed genuine. I don't follow the faith, she finally said. Ah, a northerner. Not at all a problem. That did seem to surprise her. Not that Arya showed it. I saw many during my time in the wars. Good people, if a bit crude. I find it charming, though. To this, Arya raised an eyebrow. Wars? The jolly man gave her a small smile, taking a ladle and dipping in a steaming pot of stew. Oh, I was a warrior once, fought in the last war for a time. Also in the war in the Stepstones far before your time. Her mind struggled, trying to remember her histories. Rhaenyra could care less about what Septa Mordane tried to drill in her, but she always loved the stories about the great battles. The War of the Ninepenny Kings? She smiled inwardly at remembering. So they called it, though I never saw a king nor earned a penny. It was war, though. That's what it was. Truly doesn't have to be much else. Much death and broken men. He poured a generous helping onto a thick trencher of bread. It's why I stopped. Too many broken men for my taste. Here, he handed the trencher to Arya. Enjoy. Almost declining, the heavenly smell that wafted in her nostrils killed any attempt to leave. After weeks of badly roasted rabbits she kept in her pack, the steaming beef in front of her was like the nectar of the gods. Thank you. Such good manners, laughed Maribald jovially. I like you very much, young lady. Yeah, I suppose I like you too. Something about him seemed genuine, like the townsfolk. Smiling softly at Maribald, Arya moved to an empty spot at a large table and sat, barely seated before she dug in with gusto. 3 spoonfuls in her mouth in less than 10 seconds. Gods, it tasted better than it smelled. She forced herself to slow down, savoring each morsel. Something crashed behind Arya, as if someone dropped a stack of logs. "The fuck?" Arya tensed, hearing a voice she hadn't heard in years, of someone she thought long dead. "How the fuck are you still alive?" She turned and was immediately greeted with the scarred visage of Sandor Clegane, his beard scruffier, and dressed in the clothes of a simple laborer, ear still missing from where Brienne bit it off. Her eyes narrowed. "Of all the people, I could say the same for you." Truth be told, Sandor Clegane, standing in front of her, wasn't the most unexpected thing that could have happened, more an annoyance than a shock. "How'd you survive?" she asked without much emotion. "After you left me to die," Sandor began, then gestured toward Mirabald. "He found me. In a horrid state he was," the Septon mused, groaning as he took a seat across from the young woman. "Beaten, bruised, and bleeding. I wasn't even sure I could save him." "Well, it seems you managed it," Arya scoffed, glancing at Sandor. "He only looks a tad bit cleaner than when I left him last." Sandor grunted. "You could have had me, cross my name off your damned list. But you didn't. Even when I fucking asked you to." "List? What list?" Mirabald asked. Neither Arya nor Sandor seemed to hear the Septon's question. "I took you off. Maybe I shouldn't have." "Why is it I'm sensing such hostility between you two?" Mirabald asked. "We aren't friends," Arya answered quickly. "Clearly the two of you have a past regardless. What happened?" Usse wagged a finger at Sandor, who looked to want to bite it off. "He kidnapped me?" Sandor snorted. "As if you were fucking dead in the water after that red bitch took your lover away." Her cheeks reddened. "Shut up." She did not want to think about him. "And we weren't lovers." "Right." A chuckle. "Even tried to take you back to your family. Didn't work. But at least I gave it a go." He rolled his eyes. "Maybe if I took you to Castle Black, where your bastard brother was before Stannis made him a lord, then I could have got my payday." Listening intently between spoonfuls of stew, Maribald ended up laughing. "I feel many stories can come out of your history together. Ones, perhaps I would be better off not hearing, to be honest, but that's the spice of life." His belly jostled as he continued chortling. "Now, young lady, what is that list of yours he talked about?" Orzia would usually snap at anyone calling her lady, but she liked Maribald. "He was just being polite. A list of people I'm going to kill." She took in his blank expression. "Some died already. Some managed to get off of it." Orzio gave Sandor a pointed look, leading the man to shrug. "Others are still alive, while I killed a bunch." Maribald seemed to regard it. "I believe you," he shook his head. "I know a killer when I see one. 7 hells, I was once one." "I don't see it," Sandor grunted. "Looking at you, there was no way you were a killer like us." There was silence. "Seems to me I'll always feel like you need to fight. Like there's always someone who needs killing. My life is a testament to that fact being false. I've killed all my life. Now I'm but a simple Septon. I enjoy a peaceful life. I also had a life full of fighting and death. I choose the peaceful existence every time." The Septon explained calmly, looking each of them in the eyes. "No one else has to die." Arya shrugged. "Some do. Some will," Sandor added. "I suppose the choice is in your hands then," Maribald relented, sighing a bit. "All I know is what I've experienced in my lifetime, and I know one thing. All that killing didn't help, change, or fix anything." "You have changed, though," Arya pointed out. "You're a Septon now." "Yes, but that had nothing to do with the killings. It was merely a result of it. A result of a lifetime of giving out pain to others without first dealing with the pain within myself," he replied. "I decided to make a change after I realized I'd been going in circles in my own life. I made a conscious choice to go in a different direction now. That's what the two of you have now. A choice." Frowning, Arya patted Needle's hilt. "I made my choice a long time ago. Be a lady like my mother wanted, or be a warrior like my dream. Pretty obvious as to my choice." She dared anyone to fight her on it. While most men would react with suspicion or amusement at the fact, Arya carried her sword with the skill of using it. Maribald only looked intrigued. Nothing wrong with that. A terrible world out there. He slurped up a spoonful of stew. "Best that a woman knows how to defend themselves, and others especially." "Why do you say that?" Vera thought the last phrase was beyond mere commentary. Maribald shrugged. "Some men demanding tribute of our village. We have none to give, and they didn't look too happy. Right pissed they were, Sandor grumbled. Bunch of cunts I should have buried my axe in the skull of. Arya believed the hound's characterization. I could kill them if you want. Point me in the direction, and I'll have their heads to you by the morrow. Heads save the faces. Always best to have a few unknown disguises for someone in her trade. But the Septon waved them both off. I can't have that. Caused too much death in my lifetime to be responsible for it again. Don't think I could live with myself. Maribald seemed a bit too idealistic for Arya, but his simplicity and serenity did have its appeal. Too bad I can never have that. Not anymore. Even as darkness fell over the settlement, everyone long since retired for peaceful slumber after a long day's drudgery, Arya still wandered the fields, ambling into the woods without much of a care, lost in thought. Maribald's words still filling her mind. That's what the two of you have now, a choice. Her words were equally certain. I made my choice a long time ago. But could the old man be right? Arya had made her choice, driven by desperation and being alone, sundered from those she loved. That was not the case anymore. Winterfell called to her to be with Jon, Sansa, Bran, and Rickon in something akin to happiness, at the very least a sense of safety and contentment. Nothing a life as a faceless man could ever produce. Is it not too late for me? But her list called to her, begging for blood and vengeance. Her head throbbed as a result. Chop! A noise deeper into the woods caught Arya's ears. She unsheathed her dagger, heading towards it, ready to strike if necessary. Chop. Pushing back the thick underbrush with her arm, Arya found the source of the noise. There in a clearing was the hound. Axe high in the air, rocketing down to slice a log in half. Chop. He bent over and picked up another, placing it on the tree stump. Axe high, cleave down. Chop. Repeat. Chop. Repeat. It was as if he didn't notice her. Sheathing her dagger, Yara didn't let that last much longer. Hey, asshole. Sandor didn't bother to look at her. Still chopping, but he spoke at least. Shouldn't ya be sleeping? I could ask you the same thing. She crossed her arms. No explanation was forthcoming from him. Chop. Leaving, I see. She wrinkled her nose. I'm not. Why not? What fucking business do you have here? Chop. The hound may have been many things, but stupid wasn't one of them. He had his own sort of crude cunning to him. I'm not leaving now, but I will in the morning. Chop. Where? Since when do you give a shit where I go? Urye grew defensive, though for the life of her she didn't know why. Sad to say, the two of them had been through more shit together than anyone but Jon, and she really didn't want to think about the friend she lost. I don't, Chop. But you won't leave me the fuck alone, so may as well have a bit of conversation. Chop. The chopping was getting irritating to her. King's Landing. He stopped, looking at her incredulously. King's Landing? I'm going to kill Cersei. The two of them staring at each other. Arya narrowed her eyes just as the hound's lips curled up, soon bursting into laughter. It's not funny. I'm serious. She reddened with rage. Somehow this man just blew past her emotionless facade and turned her into the ill-tempered child she was before. Leaning on his axe, Sandor couldn't help himself. Really? Kill that bitch? He covered his face as he chuckled. I mean, she ain't the cunt with fucking dragons, but still. You don't think I can do it? Arya asked, affronted. Girl, you were trained by an idiot that got himself killed by Meryn fucking Trant. If that's the level of skill a tiny bitch like you is gonna— Shut up! That only seemed to make him laugh harder. I've trained to do things few can even comprehend. Sure, girl, sure. I killed Meryn Trant. That did manage to get the hound's attention. Waited till he was off his guard and stabbed him in both eyes before I slit his throat. Somehow, Sandor believed her. Good, the cunt made us all look bad. The praise from the hound made Arya feel odd. Somewhat proud of herself. I thought you weren't a knight. He shrugged. Was basically one only without the horseshit titles that no one lived up to. Maybe that Barristan cunt, but no one else, he shrugged. Really think you can kill Cersei? Turning his side to her, Sandor grabbed another log to resume his work. Arya stood straighter. I know I can. More power to Yaka then. Chop. You can come with me, you know. Chop. I'd sooner turn into a fucking rooster. Gorakia rolled her eyes. Collard, huh? Chop! His lack of an answer made her groan in annoyance. Always talked about killing your brother, and yet you're not man enough to do it. Honestly, it felt quite cathartic to call out the hound. Suddenly the hound tossed the axe to the ground, grinding his teeth and glaring at Arakia. You stupid girl, making claims about me when you don't fucking know what I fucking did after you left me for dead. He looked like he wanted to punch something, but there was nothing in reach, 'cause you up and left. So now you care about me. You didn't fucking kill me back there in the Vale when I fucking asked you to. He narrowed his eyes at Arya. Mayhaps I want to know why. Tapping her foot, his question ended up making Arya think. You weren't on my list, she finally said. Still the cunt that killed your butcher's boy. Sandor picked up his axe. I'll tell you only once. The damned bitch queen gave me the order. Didn't enjoy it. I just didn't fucking care. Yet you did. He opened his arms. You had the chance to kill me, but you didn't. Arya said nothing, biting her lip, for once breaking her emotionless exterior. Memories of the past truly taking her places she'd rather not go, acquainting her with pain that she'd rather keep buried. Well, I'm waiting. But before she could answer, an orange glow suddenly shone through the trees, blocking the darkness of the night more than the single lantern Sandor hung on a tree branch. What the... It's coming from the hamlet, Arya commented, drawing the only logical conclusion. Do they have late-night bonfires? No one would be stupid enough to... Loud screams cut him off, and there really was no innocent explanation for that. Sandor lifted his axe just as Arya drew needle and a large hunting dagger. No words needed, as they dashed into the bushes towards the settlement. Thick brush and sharp brambles poked and scraped at Arya's skin and garments, but she pressed on harder, faster, following the orange glow, it growing brighter and brighter till erupting into a massive conflagration of chaos. As she burst out into the field that housed the settlement, what greeted her was out of a nightmare. It was pandemonium, people fleeing in every which direction. Fires were everywhere. Orange, red tongues of flame sending up pyres of greasy black smoke that obscured the stars above, engulfing all wooden and thatched dwellings dotting the field. All that was spared was the half-finished stone septs to which the throngs of running small folk seemed to concentrate on. Arazir's eyes shone from the orange glow in complete shock. What had happened here? Motherfucker. She heard Sandor growl, raising his axe, and charging into the fray. It was then that she saw it. There were riders, silhouettes dark against the backdrop of the flames, swords and maces glinting as they ran down, fleeing small folk, spilling blood all over the once merry settlement. Some men demanding tribute of our village, Meribald's innocuous statement from before coming full force now. Arya's gaze grew murderous as an old man found his skull caved in by a laughing attacker. But he was suddenly gutted by Sandor's axe didn't sate Arya's anger. She sheathed the dagger and charged into the chaos with needle drawn. We have none to give, and they didn't look too happy. The god of death will have many names tonight. Racing low, using her short stature to her advantage, Arya kept her eyes away from the flaming cottages, letting them stay used to the darkness, passing running people, wounded people, and corpses. Many corpses run down indiscriminately. But the enemy was easy to pick out, the only ones calm and professional in the slaughter. She came across her first near the last house, not blazing. He held a torch in one hand, sword in the other. A farmer came at him with a pitchfork, but the brigand parried it easily. Letting the farmer's charge pass him before swinging the sword against the man's back, he fell with a grunt, blood spurting from his back. Ignoring the man he had just killed, the brigand hefted the torch, ready to toss it into the cottage. Arya was quicker, sprinting till she jammed needle through his side. The man howled, kidney pierced expertly and bleeding like a stuck pig. Drawing her dagger, Arya finished him off with a jab to the throat as he toppled over, killing him. Screams and whimpers from inside proved she saved many, but Arya wasn't vindicated. Blades covered in blood. Her bloodlust was up, wolf growling for vengeance. Searching, something caught her eye. Two brigands, faces contorted in enjoyment as they tossed a rope around a tree, fixing a noose around the neck of Meribald. She recognized the dirty Septon's robes anywhere. Decision made in a split second. Arya booked it. She let nothing get in her way. Fleeing small folk was roughly shoved aside. A brigand that just happened in her path had her dagger tossed into his eye, Arya yanking it out by the hilt as she ran by. Somehow a mounted attacker saw this happen, and the steady rumble of charging hooves caused her to turn around to see him thundering to her, only for Sandor to bash the man off the horse, axe bashing through his chest in a bloody mess. Arya didn't thank him as she ran faster. "I'm telling you, old man," one of them spoke. "Tell us where the fucking silver is and we'll let you be." Mirabold's hands went to grab the noose, clawing at it as his face turned purple. "This isn't working," another one of them said, nervous. "Fuck. Maybe?" As suddenly as the septon had been hung, he was dropped in a coughing heap, only to choke as the brigand buried a blade into his gut, twisting it slowly. The pain stops when you show the silver. The other just turned around, not wanting to watch the torture, when Arya leapt atop him, needle running through his lungs and dagger stabbing through his neck and face repeatedly. Somewhere an inhuman screech filled Arya's ears. It took a moment to realize it was her. "Ooh, girly," Arya swiveled around, only to find a booted foot slam into her gut, the wind knocked out of her as she fell to the ground, needle tumbling somewhere out of her reach. She coughed up her lungs. "Yak killed Laurie. He was a little pansy anyway." Out of the corner of her eyes, she caught a brigand with blackened teeth advancing on her, hands fumbling with the ties of his trousers, a manic look in his eyes. Of fucking course. The man laughed. "Probably couldn't even get it fucking up. I won't have that problem, bitch, so best enjoy it." Such a tight little thing, he'd probably keep her for a while. Before the man could react, Arya essentially leaped up, spinning through the air. Her dagger slashed deep through the man's jostling belly. As he screeched from the pain, Arya found her footing and stabbed up into his crotch. From the amount of blood and the unearthly scream he gave out, almost certainly shredding his organ. Reaching out for needle with her other hand, she ran him through, piercing his heart and ending the would-be rapist within moments. Whack! Arya looked behind her to find a burly brigand collapse, axe buried deep into his spine. From 5 yards away, the hound emerged from the trees, yanking the axe out of the brigand. "Got yours?" Arya nodded. "3. How many of yours?" "5, he replied gruffly. "There were probably over a dozen, so many escaped," he shrugged. "They took out over half of us, and fuck, Meribold." Blinking, it was then Arya remembered the attack on the old section. 7 fucking hells! She was by Meribold's side in an instant, finding the jagged wound in his gut rather easily. "Fuck." He looked up at her. "Arya, always a pleasure," he coughed, "to see your lovely face." "No, you'll be fine." Arya pressed her hand against the wound to staunch the bleeding, but it only seemed to cause the blood to seep underneath her palms. "We'll get a maester." A hand gripped her shoulder. "Girl," Sandor murmured behind her, but Arya shook him off. "Where's the maester?" "The maester's dead," cried someone. "Motherfucker!" Young Arya, blood dribbled from his lips, but Meribold nevertheless smiled at her, face impossibly white beneath his beard. "It's all right. I've accepted my fate." Rosier blinked back tears. This old man, he was innocent. A man that cared about those around him, that fought to be honorable, like father. You have to fight, never stop fighting. Wheezing out a painful breath, Meribold slowly reached down to take Arya's bloody hand and is simply letting his wound bleed. "I've fought for all my life." Another cough, groaning as he shifted weakly, caused so much death. "Made myself a murderer." Anguish at a life's legacy behind him clouded his hazel eyes. "You've done so much good. Become a good person." "No, child. I made my choice long ago," he smiled. "This fate is fitting for me to be murdered as I murdered so many others." Each word saw his voice grow fainter, life leaching out of him as his blood did. And yet, he still held the strength to pull Arya close to his lips, making sure she could hear him. "You still have your choice. Fate. It's endless for you, Arya." "Stark." She pulled back, staring at him with shock. His smile widened. "Your fate, it still is in the balance." Meribold's eyes began to droop. "Choose wisely." And with a last puff of breath, the old septon passed into the endless sleep. Feeling his life slip away, Arya released the now limp hand. Blinking back tears as she stood behind her, the heavy breathing of the hound caught her attention. She choked out, "Did you tell him of my name?" There was silence. Girl, my life doesn't revolve around memories of you. Somehow his gruff insults were fitting into this obscenity of a night. Honestly, the sensation of his fingers had long since fallen victim to the numbing cold as Thoros of Myr gripped the rather small branch to toss into the flames, watching them sputter and shoot sparks as he threw the meager wood onto it. "Lord," he murmured, "please bring warmth to my fucking hands." Stiff from cold and rheumatism, Thoros was no spring chicken. He had to admit to himself, it provided some relief, but not much. Desperate as the howling winds tossed around him, Thoros grabbed the frayed wineskin resting by his side and downed a gulp, sour taste not even fazing him. He sighed in relief as his core warmed up. "Don't drink that, all down." The Red Priest looked up to see Beric plop down beside him. "We won't get more till we reach the next town we run into." Sighing, Thoros moved his hands back to hovering over the flames. "Thought you were getting some sleep." Beric shrugged. Dennett left. Fuck. Thoros couldn't muster any emotion other than resignation. That makes what? Free since those cunts went off on their own close to the Ruby Ford? He racked his mind. Dennett. Puddingfoot. And Beardless Dick. Nah, Beardless Dick died of fever 2 weeks back. You were too drunk to remember. Doesn't sound like me, he quipped, but his heart wasn't into it. So that makes 9 of us, hardly the great warriors that struck fear into the hearts of even the brave companions and mountains men. He took another gulp of the sour wine, Applejack, if he still had a palate left. So, where are we headed next? Down to fight Stannis? Mad Queen Cersei? Throwing another log into the fire, Beric pursed his lips. Why fight against something? We could fight for something. Daenerys Targaryen cares about the small folk. She freed the slaves of Slaver's Bay. Actually having hope did create inspiration. But Thoros was already a broken man. Possibly, why don't we look to the flames? Thoros arched an eyebrow. They haven't said anything in moons. Can't hurt to try. Groaning, Thoros nevertheless decided to humor his friend. Eyeing the fire, chanting his Valyrian incantations under his breath. This is fucking useless. Crackling, the flames began to dance in more than random flickers, parting into near-vivid shapes that always worked to amaze Thoros whenever he wasn't drunk, which wasn't often. Peering with his cloudy eyes, he made out, "Well, what do you see?" Beric asked impatiently. "A large wall made of ice and magic. No secrets there. There are 2 people on top. Dark shrouds. It looks like they're speaking." The flames spurted out, calling out to them in a sheer voice. "I can't go back." Thoros frowned, looking back to Beric for a few moments before returning his gaze to the fire. "He's my brother, but I can't." They'd seen many a vision in the flames, but not often did the fire speak directly to them. The voice grew fearful, terrified even. Not with it out there. The greater threat. Suddenly the image changed, flickers and tongues of fire shaking into a new configuration. One of a large tree, a massive tree, one that towered over all others. In the distance were what seemed to be thousands clashing furiously against blinding white fire. Snow, the flames turned a dark blood red. Are those the leaves of the tree? A weirwood then, likely a god's wood, figured Thoros as the leaves seemed to pulse with energy. Waves of flame erupting from the tree and towards a single figure, seated before it in a chair with wheels and covered in a dark brown cloak. All around, dark specks of ravens shot through the air. The Red Priest watched entranced. "Thoros? Thoros?" A shaking of his companion released him from his trance. "Fuck, you were under for fucking forever." Blinking, Thoros tried to regain his bearings. "By Rosier!" It was as if his entire vision was spinning. "What in fuck's name did that mean?" he asked, a bit bewildered. "What did you see?" Beric asked, not seeing it for himself. Just watching Thoros experience it made him think it was rather jarring. Thoros glanced around, seeming like he didn't want anyone to hear. Yet it was late at night. Everyone else was asleep. He knew that the flames still illuminated his confused expression. "Thoros, what did you see?" Beric repeated himself. He shivered, taking a heated mug of mulled wine and sipping at it. "I didn't just see, I fucking heard." To this Beric's eyes widened, heard as in sounds. Nah, as in voices. He shook his head, retelling every last bit of his visions to his fellow knight. Never happened before to any red priest I know, that's for damn sure. Running a hand through what remained of his hair, Thoros reminisced back to the good old days of charging blind drunk into Pike with a flaming sword. What could it mean? I'm not sure, Beric answered, finding himself stroking his hairy chin. It could mean anything. Well, that's not helping much. Did you not see anything then? No, I saw things as well, Thoros replied, then held up 2 fingers. 2 visions. One was the wall. Up top of it, 2 people spoke. That's where the voices came from. What did they say? Talking about not going somewhere. Someone's brother, they didn't want to leave. Claiming something was out to get them, I think. Thoros explained. It didn't even seem to make sense the more he thought about it. They seemed scared. Beric's eyes widened. The others? Could be, Thoros shrugged. What was the other vision? A giant weirwood tree. There was a boy wrapped in furs sitting in front of it while some big fucking battle went on in the snow. That's it? Aye. See his face? I'm sorry, Beric, I didn't get a chance to get a full description, Thoros scoffed, crossing his arms. I saw what the Lord gave me. Did you see anything about the battle? Just that there were thousands fighting, more than thousands. Frowning, Beric hadn't given so much of himself, lost so much of himself, to the service of the Lord of Light to get mired in riddles. Is there anything you did see clearly? The wall. That was clear, Thoros pointed out. Do we need to go there? Perhaps, but what about the weirwood? The boy in the chair? I've seen plenty of weirwoods in my life, yet that one looked different to me. Most of them are up north, where they follow the old gods. Could you think of one that a boy might sit by in a chair? Well, there's always Winterfell, Thoros said. The tree may have been from there. More likely that a boy might be near one inside the walls of a castle, as opposed to out in the wilderness. I believe they might have a godswood there. But who is he? The boy, Beric asked, frowning. That may be important. Someone the Lord wants us to watch over. Or destroy. What? You think a poor boy praying by a heart tree needs to be destroyed? Thoros only shrugged in response. Well, we're close to the King's Road anyway. That can take us north as soon as we catch some sleep. He thumped his comrade on the back. You take the first watch. Thoros rolled his eyes. Oh, what a fucking joy. Thoros groaned, sending an obscene gesture in Beric's direction. He couldn't sleep. Jon Stark wandered the halls of Dragonstone, only guards and a few servants scurrying about as the first tendrils of sunlight poked over the eastern horizon. His eyes were set in dark circles and face ruffled and haggard with a stubble. An entire night of twisting and turning in his bed, sweat soaking his trousers and sheets, left him in a sour state. Not that Jon was a stranger to these nights since his resurrection, but this time had been far worse. The sea of blue eyes hadn't visited his dreams the other times. Ever since Davos told him, they haunted his every thinking. So vivid, so malevolent as his overheated body suddenly was overcome with an icy cold that woke him up. Breath actually fogging before him, Jon knew it couldn't have been just a nightmare. Not just what a child would imagine after their father or older brother told them a scary story, but what seemed to be a memory. Jon's past struggling through the muck and mire of his shattered mind, and thus he shambled aimlessly through the halls, trying desperately to clear his head. Thankful to Daenerys for no longer having a guard escort him everywhere like a common hostage. Daenerys, now she was one that always occupied at least some of his thoughts. Not that he minded. Whenever she was around, Jon found the pain that at the very least throbbed deep within his core. More often a stabbing agony that made him unable to walk at times, tempered. His body and soul calm, I remember her. Some of her at least. Perhaps that was the reason. And you will never truly come back to yourself unless you take chances. Davos's words hit him hard, especially given the sincerity and fatherly tone of Stannis' hand. Jon found himself seriously considering it, and the implication only brought him more pain. Perhaps staying dead would have been easier. The shuffling of feet and a muffled crash drew Jon's attention from his thoughts. Turning the corner, he found a man desperately clutching a hollowed-out alcove in the wall, the other hand leaning onto a cane with all his might, bony fingers almost gauging the wood. Jon recognized the old man as someone that had visited him not long after his resurrection. It hadn't been a long visit, but they had been reintroduced. Maester Aemon! He quickly raced to Aemon's side, hefting the older Targaryen until he leaned against his shoulder. Here, let me help you up. Unseeing eyes looking up in a reflex even years of blindness couldn't cure him of. Aemon touched Jon's face with weathered hands. Ah, my dear Jon. Thank you. He still gripped the cane, using it to support his left side as they began to amble forward. My body, it's failing me, though I probably shouldn't complain. I've been alive for a century, and this body's carried me forward through it all. He chuckled, which morphed into a cough, wincing. Jon felt a protectiveness over this old man. Something beyond simple mentor-apprentice, but Sam said, Aemon and he were close at Castle Black. Based on that and a fuzzy instinct, Jon accepted it easily. I should take you back to your chambers. No, Aemon categorically denied that, shaking his head. I may be old, but my soul is still tough, and I want one last gust of wind from my home upon my face, before my legs fail me completely. If he were in Aemon's place, Jon would want a young knight in his service to grant him such a request. All right, you'll have to guide me, though perhaps I should fetch someone. Rozer. Lord. Nonsense. I know this place like the back of my hand. Even blind, I can guide you anywhere. Even 7 decades of separation couldn't break the bond between a Targaryen and the ancestral home of the House of the Dragon. Just a turn right here. Alban's directions were interrupted by the scuffle of shoes, and a rather strenuous huffing and puffing. The old Meister sighed, grinning toothlessly. Capus found me. Bounding rather fast for someone of his girth, Sam raced through the corridors. Maester Aemon, he called out. Guards! Prince Aemon is missing. Guards! Eyes finally finding his ancient charge being escorted by his friend, Sam tried to stop, only to trip and fall all over himself. Much as he felt he shouldn't, Jon couldn't help but laugh. Enjoying a bit of humor in a life that had very little of it. Best be careful then. Sam. Jon couldn't help but realize why he was friends with someone obviously different than him. The lad was fun to be around. Not funny, Jon, Sam answered with a wheeze, hauling himself up. Why did you take Maester Aemon from his room? I requested it, Samwell, Aemon replied. Need to do something before my legs fail me. Sensing the acolyte wouldn't leave him alone, he waved Sam off. Jon can take me there. No sense in keeping you from your fast breaking. Go along. Eyes flickering from Aemon to Jon and to Aemon again, Sam nodded. Make sure he doesn't fall, all right? Jon smiled softly. I'll try my best. Eventually, and with great difficulty, Jon managed to half-carry, half-guide Ackerman to an open-air courtyard that jutted out from the main keep into the grassy expanse. At least 20 feet from the lush green carpet, fed off the hardy volcanic soil released long ago by the Dragon Mod. I do wish I could see it all again, Ackerman remarked, a cough racking him just as Jon set him down on a stone bench. Jon watched him with concern. Do you need water or wine? Aemon waved him off. 'Tis all right, my boy. All I need is the company. Patting the space next to him, Jon took a seat, the two of them staring at the cloudy sky and serene Dragonmont. Only the errant wind and an occasional seagull broke the tranquility. Something bothers you, though, Jon. He didn't wish to unload his problems upon the old man. No, I'm fine. When people say they're fine, most often I've seen they are not, so don't play that charade. He was gentle, but firm. Is it the pain from your coming back? How do you know I am in any pain? You came back from the dead. You lost chunks of your memory, along with gods know what else. A little pain is reasonable. Leaning on instinct, and what was left of his gut feelings about things, Jon felt he could trust this man. He seemed to legitimately care about him, a bond that only could have been forged through a strong relationship. Well, calling it a little pain would be an understatement. He leaned back, gazing up at the sky. Sometimes the pain is so great that I'm being stabbed all over again. Why? Why do you think it gets to that point, my boy? Ottomo was enjoying the familiar elements of his ancestral home swirl around him, but Jon's suffering drew his concern. Depends, I guess. Jon shrugged. Mostly when I try to remember a lot of my life. Of the family everyone seems to talk about, but are only snippets in my mind. A jumble of fragments that I can't seem to piece together. Such would lead to the headaches, and then the stabbings tearing through his heart. I don't know, myself. I mean, I do feel things, have instincts, but what do they matter if I don't remember what brought me to where I am? Nodding, Aemon understood. sucking in his lips past toothless gums. I often felt lost at the wall, away from everyone that mattered to me, all that I cared about, being a maester and a Targaryen. Most didn't seem to enjoy being with me there. I often kept to myself. When Brynden disappeared, he had no one. But you aren't alone, Jon. You have those that care about you. Aye, away from here. Daenerys cares about you. Calm washing over him, Jon smiled for a moment, closing his eyes and imagining Dany, how she warned him at his coldest. There were emotions that came from his fragments of the past, most terrifying and chaotic, but there was one he held on to. The moment in the cave where the same warmth he felt now for her shone brightly from the past. This feeling isn't new. She does. But it isn't enough, is it? She didn't know you before, from when you were a bastard, a child, when you became who you are now. Yes, Aang folded his hands together, trying to warm his frail body, while Jon put his thoughts together. Before he left, Davos Ewirth invited me to go to Stannis, to leave Dragonstone and Daenerys. I've been debating whether to go or not. Now, he would only wait for Aemond's thoughts. I foresee a journey, my boy, something that will take you away, so you can find yourself again. You're lost right now, and while Daenerys might provide you comfort, it might be that you need separation to rediscover yourself, Aemond said, calmly. Jon looked at him, wishing that the old man he felt so comfortable talking to could see the anguish in his eyes, the apprehension on his face. And if I can't find myself, if I lose Daenerys, the one person that seems to give me any form of reprieve from this pain, truly the moments with her were the only times his mind could calm and his agony could retreat. I risk losing the one person that keeps me grounded. Aemond smiled, heartened that the boy he so cared about could finally admit his connection with the last of the Targaryens. If only they met in peace. If only they weren't so broken. He would have been happy to officiate their wedding in the Godswood. I know, lad. I know. You're afraid of losing what makes you you, of losing the person who is your link to what you once were. He sighed. But as of now, it doesn't ground you. It holds you back from the truth you will need to rediscover. Only then will your feelings for her and hers for you be the immovable object you see it as. I don't know if she'd see it that way, Master Ipin. She was very protective of him. While some would find it controlling and mad, perhaps the old Jon would have. He didn't know, but given everything it warmed his heart that someone cared that much. I'd be joining Stannis as Davos said. He's her enemy. She cares about you even more than I do, seems like, and I think she would understand. It's a gamble, lad. If only you losing yourself could bring the both of you together, then it is toxic, not wonderful. Not once did Aemond believe the former was true, but it was something the two of them needed to discover personally. Digesting the words, Jon looked up at the sky, watching the dragons dance above the choppy waters. So I have to make this journey then. I have to leave even without knowing fully who I am. He placed a hand on Jon's shoulder. You know your name, but you don't know what your name means. You don't know what your name means to others. You don't remember what things you experienced that built the great man you were. Unfortunately, you can't rediscover those things inside this castle. Hanging his head, Jon felt as alone and scared as he had the moment he first awoke, not knowing himself. Before she placed her balm on his shattered psyche, I don't know if I have the heart to tell her. Ottoman squeezed Jon's shoulder. She'll only forgive you if you trust her. If you just leave, it'll break her heart. Neither of you deserves any more heartbreak. I've lived through so much of it, watched from afar as it consumed my family. Ottoman supposed that both Daenerys and Jon figured their lives of pain and isolation were the worst fate. No, the worst was knowing a life of joy and love, only to lose it forever in the blink of an eye. What if my memories don't come back? Aemond paused, an answer not entirely evident to him. This topic was beyond anything he'd known in his 100 years of life. I'm not sure, my boy. I'm sorry. There's likely someone else who could help you with that question. Memories are what make people who they are. It's what separates us from the beasts of this world. The memories you had were essential in making up the person you were. Jon smirked, then frowned. You're not being very reassuring, Master. Lizamon chuckled. Well, listen here. Your memories will come back. Or perhaps they won't. Perhaps some of them will, while others won't. You can't know, and you can't control that. You must focus on what you can control. That's just it. I don't know what to do, much less what I can control. I just feel formless. Wandering with no place to rest my head, everything seems out of my reach. You can control your actions, Jon. You can do anything you want. This castle has held you captive for some time now. Perhaps it is a good time you go out on your own. Aemon said, "Allow yourself time to recover. You seem restless to me. I don't think this place is somewhere you can recover. There's too much pain, right?" A heavy breath fluttered from Jon's lips. The answer was unequivocal. Yes. A roar broke them from their contemplation as a large dragon swooped past them. Low to the ground, flapping its wings, Jon flinched, almost crouching the ground on instinct. It was Maester Aemon that steadied him with his words, "Jon, my boy, tell me." His grip on Jon's shoulder grew tight, voice excited and apprehensive. "What is it? I need to visualize it." Gulping, Jon watched as the dragon circled. It's the green dragon, not the one Daenerys rides. "How big? I need to know." "Large, about a quarter the length of the keep wingtip to wingtip." With a shriek, the green dragon thundered into a landing. Wingbeat showered both of them with gusts of wind. Jon blinked and tried to brush the wrinkles from his clothes, while Aemon opened his arms, letting the air blanket him as the ground rumbled underneath. He was enjoying this. Jon figured before the rumbling grew closer. Oh shit, he's coming towards us. Slowly, the green dragon ambled on, folded wings and hind legs towards the two of them. Neck reared back high as if to study Jon and Aemon. Amber eyes almost curious in their intensity. "Easy, lad. He won't harm us." "I'm not afraid," Jon murmured, though he figured any man not raised intimately around dragons would have a certain apprehension about them. "It's all right to be afraid. I am a little myself." Nevertheless, he attempted to stand, bidding the assistance of Jon to ease the strain on his wobbly legs. "Gods, but I'm more excited about this than I am afraid, and I think you are too." Jon wasn't exactly sure excited was the best word for it. Regardless, he helped Amain shamble to the lip of the balcony. Jon's eyes were trained on the dragon, watching him simply stare. Gaze following the two of them, slowly move forward. Faint, foggy memories filled Jon's mind, burning. Heat, roars. But ultimately, an almost shooting warmth tickling his palms. Once they approached the lip, the green dragon instantaneously lowered its head, craning the long serpentine neck until the large snout was within reach. Hot breath on their faces. Jon felt fearless in that moment. "Master Aemon, if you want to touch the dragon, you can." Hand trembling as he raised it slowly, Aemon peered with eyes that almost seemed like they saw what was ahead of him. If Jon didn't know better, he could have been fooled by it all. But what was real was how Aemon pressed his palm against the smooth green scales of the mighty dragon's snout. How the fearsome creature rumbled from its throat. Almost like the purr of a cat, only much, much louder. "Gods be praised," Aemon gasped, reduced to tears. "It's finally happened. I finally stand before a dragon." An indescribable joy overtook him. It felt as if an emptiness deep in his heart was now filled. "Jon," he called back to the boy he took under his wing. If only Egg could have witnessed this. If only Aemon couldn't go on, overcome with the emotion of all of this. Watching the heartwarming scene made Jon smile. He deserved this, even if it was a dragon of all things. All logic within his broken mind told Jon that this beast was a demon to be feared. But when he looked upon it, an inner voice spoke to him, told him not to be worried, as if from deep in his blood. Suddenly, the dragon's amber eyes flickered to him, head not moving, but staring at Jon all the same. It rumbled from its throat, something guttural. Aemon turned to him. "I think Rhaegal wants you to come forward." Rhaegal? The name didn't feel familiar, but it called to him nonetheless. A dragon? Jon's feet carried him forward, nonetheless. "He won't harm you." The maester settled into his role as a dragon expert rather well. It was as if he was born a Valyrian dragon lord, watching the great beasts live and soar before him for decades. "I should know," he chuckled. "He told me." "He?" Jon stopped right beside Aemon. He. "They are magnificent, intelligent creatures." Wordlessly, Aemon took Jon's hand, the bony fingers slowly guiding him towards the dragon, towards Rhaegal. "Do not be afraid. Do not cower, kill the boy, and let the man be born." Jon Stark. Swallowing, hand trembling only inches from the heated scales, Jon opened his shut eyes and stared at Rhaegal's eye, each simply watching each other, time stretching out interminably as they tried to comprehend the other. A dragon? A fucking dragon? Even in his broken state, he understood the significance of it. The beast Avius Targaryen tried to aspire to when he burned my grandfather and uncle. The beast Cregan Stark willingly fought with during the dance. The beast Dany hatched, that Dany calls her child. Slowly, he lowered his palm onto the scales, expecting to be scalded. But he didn't. Jon felt no pain in his hand. No pain anywhere. Just a pervasive warmth that spread through his body, banishing the agony as Dany could and leaving him at peace. He closed his eyes, simply enjoying the respite. Across from him, lowly, purring at the touch, Rhaegal's eyes closed as well. Hitting his neck with his palm, Thoros cursed the very gods themselves. How in the fuck could there be insects still buzzing around this far north? It boggled the mind, but such was the case in the chilly but still fetid black bogs of the neck. "I told ya, we should have stayed on the damn King's Road," complained Angie, swatting at the pernicious flies with his bow. "But you had to take a shortcut." "The road was flooded," Beric shot back. "With water far deeper than this," he raised his boot from the knee-deep water. Luckily for the Brotherhood, their constant activity among the rivers and streams of the Riverlands all led them to waterproof high-leather footwear. Not all of it fit, but it worked. "Now keep on the lookout," he hissed. "There's no one here," complained Jack the Lucky, scratching his cheek below the eye patch. "Nothing but bugs and slimy shit." Thoros rolled his eyes. "And lizard lions. Careful, or they'll bite your leg clean off." He had no idea if they would do that, but anything was better to hear the men complain. None of them may have gone through bogs this dense before, but what they had endured over the many years wasn't much better. Opening his mouth to speak, a sudden guttural bellow shut Jack right up. Several splashes echoed through the water of swimming creatures, everyone more on alert. Thoros smirked, finally enjoying some silence. "Don't make one more move, Southerner." At the noise, swords and axes were drawn, Angie notching an arrow while Thoros and Beric prepared their swords. "Who the fuck is that?" "The man that's going to chop you up and feed you to the lizard lions if you don't turn around and get the fuck out of my swamp." An arrow shot out of nowhere and smacked into a large cypress tree for good measure. Glancing at each other, Thoros and Beric both ignited their blades. "We're going north, whatever the fuck you are," Beric hissed. "So if you want to kill us at least, come out and fight us like men." There was silence, followed after nearly half a minute with a curious cry. "Seven hells, are you the Brotherhood? I don't know of anyone else with flaming swords." Thoros locked eyes with Beric before answering. "Seems you got us pegged. Who are you?" Someone stepped out from the brush, pushing his blade back in his scabbard. "Howland Reed," he said. "Lord of Greywater Watch." Taking the hand, Thoros chuckled. "So you're the mad cunt that infiltrated the twins with only a few wildlings and some wildfire." "Lord Stark did most of the actual planning, and as for the rest, I can't comment." Howland eyed him. "By the looks of you, you're Thoros of Mire. Can't outdo your charging headfirst into the battlements of Pike with a flaming sword. You're either very brave, very mad, or we're very drunk. Suppose a little bit of all three is in order." Thoros looked back at his men, who were all still on edge. "Say, can you tell your boys not to fucking kill us if we move?" Looking behind his shoulder, Howland raised his palm. The Brotherhood watched as nearly 24 men emerged from the thick foliage and swamp around them, sheathing arrows or lowering javelins. "Looks like we're losing our edge. Might you be going to Winterfell?" Howland asked, a bit gleefully as they settled onto a patch of land adjacent to the King's Road, having bypassed the flooded portions. "That's where we're headed." Several campfires had been started, the Craned men giving their southern counterparts a taste of their meager hospitality. House Reed was never the richest house. The sun has long since fallen. The light from the fires provided a glow to everyone's sullen countenances. A few stars shone brightly in the sky. "Small world, eh?" Thoros remarked, chewing on his frog leg with gusto. Honestly, he had eaten and drank far worse in his day. Hopefully not the same reason as us. "Why would you go?" Beric asked, eating a stew himself. "The North's at peace ever since Jon Stark was taken hostage by the Dragon Queen," declared neutrality. Howland looked pained by remembering that. "They did. pledging not to fight for Stannis or any other claimant to the Iron Throne alongside the Free Folk and the Upper Rivermen. He tore off a chunk of black bread, chewing and swallowing. Doesn't mean we're at peace. Not by a long shot. That's why we're going there, a quiet, slender girl added. Howland's daughter, Mira, the gods wish us there to fight the Atha. The other war the North will have to fight in. Looking over at Beric, the one-eyed man raised his surviving eyebrow while Thoros nodded. Has it anything to do with the wall? Gods no, Howland said. I won't have anything to do with Castle Black. It's time I return to Winterfell. With Jon not there, I feel they might need help. Seems we both have that in common, Beric said. We believe they may be in need of help as well. Howland raised an eyebrow. How you mean, what has led you to Winterfell? Beric leaned in over the fire and gestured to it. We follow the one true Lord, the Lord of Light. He has led us to Winterfell. Why? We've seen a great battle there. A battle in the snow. It's coming. A battle? With the White Walkers? Mira gasped. Her father's eyes snapped to her, almost upset. She locked eyes with him, then noticed all were looking at her. Those are the demons lingering beyond the wall. Is that why you ask of it? What do you know of it, my lady? I've seen them. The White Walkers. They are real and they are coming. Thoros and Beric exchanged a glance. Before the drunken priest replied, we saw some other things, he said. A boy in a chair. Mira planned on speaking again, but her father cut her off. What do you mean? Saw? Beric aimed his finger at the fire. There. That is how we see. Visions in the flames, Thoros added. We witnessed a great battle at Winterfell. The Lord has led us there, wants us to travel there. So we are. Howland leaned over. You mentioned a boy in a chair. Beric nodded, speaking next. What do you know of Brandon Stark? Nothing, save his existence. Howland shrugged. I heard he made it home. Beric huffed. We've heard rumors of him. Even all the way out here. Seems he's been acting strange, spending all hours of the day by the Heart Tree in Winterfell. Does that mean something to you? Thoros replied. It could, yes, but we don't know much. That's why we're going to Winterfell. We just seek answers. Mira visibly tensed. Howland turned to her. Are you all right, my child? Yes, father. I know of the person these men ask about. What do you mean? Brandon Stark is the boy you speak of. I'm sorry, my lady. Beric frowned. I'm a bit confused. The boy in the chair, who sits by the weirwood tree. It could only be Bran, Mira explained. How do you know him? We traveled together for a time, she said, but looked away. Beyond the wall? We would very much like to speak to him, said Thoros. Perhaps he has the answers we seek. The only thing Brandon Stark has is power. I would be very careful in dealing with him, Mira warned, returning her eyes to them. He is not the boy I once knew. He's changed. In what way, child? Her father asked. He's the three-eyed raven,